Welcome, everybody, to the Inside the U live stream for the signing day show. A lot of interviews to talk about. I've got some breakdowns of all the signees. I'm going to play some interviews with you. And also, as news comes along with today, we'll definitely check in on that. There are some things to pay attention to. Miami's got 14 signees as I speak right now. Still looks like all the rest of the commits. There should not be any surprises at this time with the current commits. However, there's a couple guys to pay attention to kind of moving forward. Will Miami be able to land Damari Brown, a cornerback out of American Heritage? They landed his brother, Devontae Brown. He's going to make his announcement at 3:15 publicly. Also, maybe just a couple other names to pay attention to. I know Miami fans have been wondering, will they be able to land these other local kids, these other local players? In Edwin Joseph, it's trending towards Florida State as it looks. But, Miami's kind of looking at him, an athlete cornerback there. Also, maybe Stanquan Clark, Miami Central linebacker, just won a state championship there. We'll see if anything happens with that as well. Miami's trying to land some more guys here on signing day, but the guys they got, certainly exciting. Shout out to everybody who's jumping in right now. Let's get right into some things, some interview stuff. Drop in your comments, any certain breakdowns of the signees you want to hear from. We'll definitely get to that, but let's jump right into my discussion. It's just each one of these breakdowns is about 3 to 5 minutes, so it gives you guys kind of a snapshot, a few clips and things like that. I'm going to keep working here. I've got some other things to check on, got the phone ready to go, but definitely staying up to date on all the news. But here's Nathaniel Joseph, to me, one of the most exciting players in Miami's class at this point. Miami lands Nathaniel Joseph out of Miami Edison, goes by Ray, a dynamic playmaker, a wide receiver, 5'8", 170 pounds, a four-star recruit, someone that we got a chance to see quite a bit over the summer, either on 7-on-7 circuit stuff or at the Miami camps. Wherever he's at, whatever camp he goes to or games or whatever that might be, he just makes plays. Joseph is a guy that I think has a really bright future at Miami, and I think he's definitely going to be someone that people should be excited about because he's a dynamic playmaker, get the ball in his hands, he can make moves, and I know Miami's been looking for that, guys that can make moves with the ball in their hands, that yards after catch will be big, a dynamic playmaker. There's no other way to put it with Ray here.
Yeah, Ray is a big time playmaker out of the slot. I mean, we talk about, I think one thing maybe Miami struggled with in 2022 was just the yards after catch, kind of making a play on the ball and then, earning a little bit more after that. Ray Joseph, I mean, you turn on the tape, he makes dudes miss. He throws tacklers off of him. He's not a guy that's, an easy takedown. Yeah, he might be smaller in stature at 5'9", 170 pounds. But this is a guy that has some juice, has the will to kind of push the ball forward, and he has that elite speed. I mean, when you're talking slot receivers across the country, I don't think they come much better than Nathaniel Ray Joseph. Probably a guy that can get it done on maybe at the high school level on the outside, but when he focuses in on that slot, I mean, I see him being a guy that gets on the field early for Miami, ends up being a contributor pretty soon, especially as a kid that's going to get to campus early here in January. I mean, Ray Joseph in every environment that I've watched him in, whether that be 7-on-7, whether that be on Friday nights at Traz Powell or anywhere else. I mean, he just steals the show. He's just a big time playmaker. Going back to his recruitment, I mean, Miami kind of had to flip him from Georgia when they got there. I mean, not from Georgia, from Clemson when they got there. He gave the Tigers, Dabo Swinney, his early pledge. And, Coach Cristobal and all those guys, Josh Gaddis, David Cooney, they went to work with trying to flip him, and they eventually won out this past summer when they were able to do so. And Ray Joseph has been a great advocate for the program, one of those social media recruiters, an ambassador, if you will. And I think just a guy that I could see Coach Cristobal taking with him to ACC Media Days, when that time comes for him later in his career, because he is that type of dude, high GPA kid, high moral character kid, and just the type of guy that it feels like Coach Cristobal wants to bring to Miami.
We touched on his attributes as a player, everything he's bringing to the table. You touch on some intangibles, some off the field type stuff. For me, touch on that Clemson commitment before he was committed to Miami, watching film and watching him and getting to know him as a prospect, as a player. He was one of my favorite guys in this class. Before he was committed to Miami, he was someone I enjoyed watching, covering, paying attention to. And for Miami to get him in this class, I just think he's got a very bright future. For anybody that asked about him, I was always, singing his praises because I just thought this guy was really dynamic. And again, yes, the physical stature, he's not one of these big, tall guys, but dynamic playmaker and a guy that just gets it done. I like that. I like his mentality. I like the way what he's bringing to the field, his mentality with how he approaches the game. A competitive guy, once again, a guy that they got the ball to, Edison. They tried to, watching some film, they're trying to do handoffs. I mean, they're doing whatever they could to get him the ball, and he would just rack up catches. We've touched on the yards after catch, and I think that will be big. I think he's a guy that can make an immediate impact. Once again, a guy that could make an impact on special teams if they want to go that route. But certainly, I think he's got a bright future. He's someone that people should be excited about. And I know sometimes you look at rankings and you wonder, is it going to translate? I'd be shocked if Ray doesn't have a really productive career at Miami. So you heard plenty of great stuff about Nathaniel Joseph. Certainly Gabby and I are very excited about him. Miami's adding a dynamic wide receiver there, and they've added other receiver. They've got Robbie Washington in the mix as well. Certainly another exciting player, having a chance to watch him. Maybe we'll get to him in a little bit, but I do want to go through kind of the breakdown of the other positions as well. Some of the top guys coming in at this moment. None of the 5 stars as of yet. Again, checking the phone, checking live updates, and certainly stay tuned to InsideTheU.com for articles, the live thread there, updates as well. If you want to go over there, check out more information on these players. Breakdowns of every single signee will be on the website. Hopefully I get to them here in the live stream. Plan on going for a couple hours. We'll see how it goes. But also definitely the YouTube channel will have plenty of stuff there as well. So as you can see right here on the screen, Miami has a number 3 ranked class in the country. I will update that periodically to see if anything moves there. Also, it gives you a look at the top 10. There's other big time teams in this mix. Miami has not been in this spot since the 24/7 Sports era, since it started in 2011. So it's Miami's best class since 2008. They had the number 1 class in the country that year. So a lot of excitement with Mario Cristobal. The coaching staff deserves a lot of credit. The Stafford's personnel, everybody for getting this class to where it's at. And I do want to mention too, so the class, the team rankings, that does include the commits, the guys that haven't officially signed yet. Once again, as I mentioned earlier, Miami's still planning on, based on what I've heard, still planning on getting everyone that is currently committed. They did lose 3-star tight end Reed McKeska yesterday, but that was expected. Miami, it's tough to add 3 tight ends in a recruiting class. You get it. It happens. It moves on. He goes to South Carolina. But a lot of positives with Miami. I know some people want to see some big splashes today, but getting Mark Fletcher recently, that was a big time get, and all of these other guys that we will get into as well. Let's talk about Mark Fletcher. Drop in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think of this recruiting class. What are you thinking about maybe moving forward today? Once again, afternoon, 3:15 decision. Damari Brown, that's the one to pay attention to. He's a guy with length. I will show his highlights in a bit, but Mark Fletcher, you can't say enough good things about him. I posted highlights from his state championship game. They lost to Miami Central. Miami Central, an excellent defense led by Miami signee Reuben Bain. He was all over the field, but Mark Fletcher had some good plays in that game. I thought he was impressive. But let's get into some stuff about, just Mark Fletcher, kind of what he's bringing to the table. 4-star running back, just another impressive guy that Miami's added. I thought it was important for Miami to add running backs and receivers. A big time get in the final week before signing day. It's 4-star running back Mark Fletcher, the 15th ranked running back according to the 24/7 Sports composite ranking, a top 10 running back by 24/7. Miami had to do a lot of work to get this guy. A lot of schools wanted him.
Yeah, this was an absolute grinder of a recruitment. Commits to Ohio State over the summer months. Seems solid up to with the Buckeyes. Kind of comes down to Miami for that Florida State game as an Ohio State commit. Watches Miami really get throttled on the field. I mean, we all know what happened that day. Kind of came off of that, feeling as though really any chance Miami had to make a move there was kind of dead, right? I mean, he was not impressed by what he saw on the field. Backs off of Ohio State a couple days later, really, and kind of surprised everyone. Florida became the program that everyone started to kind of peg him to and just kind of assume that he was going there. And really, I mean, I do think that there's a lot of legitimacy to that with Florida kind of being the team that he probably was considering most. But Mario Cristobal, this is exactly why you brought him down to South Florida. Gets Mark Fletcher on campus for an official visit the last weekend ahead of this early signing period. And he walked out of that official visit committed to the Miami Hurricanes. And it was just absolutely massive for them to be able to pluck his commitment away from Florida, an in-state rival who they are going to get, who they have on the schedule in 2024. So it's something that directly impacts that future game. And of course, it just matters on the recruiting trail. So, I mean, big recruiting win for Miami here with Mark Fletcher keeping South Florida's top tailback in Coral Gables.
And there's multiple reasons why this is a big get, as you mentioned, going against an in-state rival. Also, the South Florida elite prospect, you like that as well. And in particular at running back, Miami needed help at running back. 6'1", 225 pounds. They like the bigger back, ideally in this, what they want to do building up front with the strength of the offensive line, a strong power game, running game. And Mark brings that, a guy that rushed for over 100 yards in a state championship game against a tough Miami Central defense. Certainly there's a lot to like about him, his abilities. And the biggest thing is he's going to have a chance to showcase his abilities immediately when he arrives on campus.
Oh yeah, Mark Fletcher is a big bruising 6'1", 225-pound back. Ran for nearly 2,000 yards as a senior, 23 touchdowns, 8.6 yards per carry. I mean, these are the types of backs that you bring in that kind of reinvent the room. This is how you change the way a football team looks. I mean, just kind of adding some of those big bodies. I think Mark Fletcher is a much more twitched up version of what Miami was hoping to get in Thad Franklin. I think he's much more of a much more complete product and the same idea, but I think the results are going to be much different with Fletcher. High character kid, high IQ kid. Definitely going to be a good representative of the program and definitely a fantastic culture fit for what Mario Cristobal's trying to do with this team.
You touched on his power and his strength and those kind of numbers, but you said twitch, and that stands out to me with some of the film that I've seen on him, that he does have this ability to make cuts. And with a big guy, it is impressive with what he's able to do there. And I think Miami fans should be excited about this one and the coaching staff, because I definitely think it helps the running back room as it stands. I know they certainly would have liked to have had a bigger back last year. The way that the season went along with the running game, not really able to click consistently, especially after the beginning of the season. So Fletcher comes in, once again, a big time get for the Hurricanes. A lot to like about him. His future certainly looks bright. So we're back here. As we were talking about Mark Fletcher, Antonio Tripp officially signed a letter of intent, a 3-star prospect out of IMG Academy. I know someone on the chat asked about Riley Williams. I said IMG, none of the 4 guys had signed yet, but immediately Antonio Tripp changes that, a 3-star recruit. I'll have more on the offensive linemen. I saw also in the chat, people are excited about what's going on in the trenches, and certainly deservedly so. With Antonio Tripp. I'll have more on the offensive line as soon as guys sign. I'll kind of break down what we're seeing there with the offensive line. I think you guys will like that. Also, just want to get into some more things. I've got to post this Antonio Tripp thing, but let's get into that. Let's talk, since the news just broke with Antonio Tripp, let's see what's going on with him and also maybe learn more about him, from a Miami standpoint, maybe how he fits in, the kind of player he is, for the Hurricanes, and what it looks like for him moving forward. Miami lands offensive lineman Antonio Tripp, originally from Baltimore, Maryland, made the move to IMG Academy for his senior year, a highly competitive environment. I think that was good for Antonio to do that, be around some other Miami commits, and I think that definitely helped with his progression as a player.
Yeah, I think that was a big part of the decision to move to IMG Academy, was to be there with Francis, to be there with some of the other guys there, to kind of be pushed by them. To kind of just get to know these guys too. Again, I mean, I think that this is a part of, the mentality of the kid that's going into Miami, is these guys just really were kind of all in, bought in, wanted to make this thing right. And I think Tripp going down to the Sunshine State, where he really could have stayed home his senior year, been around the people he was familiar with, and he made a business decision to make that move. I think it shows how serious he is about improving his craft, about getting bigger, faster, stronger, all those different types of things, more athletic, more versatile, more, all the things that offensive linemen need to do. And training with a guy like Francis Mauigoa, who is, the cream of the crop of the position of the offensive line, I think was a strong move for him, a smart move for him. And Antonio Tripp, I mean, has been one of the earlier commitments in this class, kind of one of the guys that got this thing rolling, and really has just been a vocal advocate for the program since early on when he committed. I mean, he's been that type of guy, and him coming full circle, putting his name in ink and signing with the Hurricanes is a big moment for him.
And I think that's always great to see and great to hear when players, not only do they make their commitment, but they make it known why they picked Miami, why it's the great place, or wherever school they're going to go to. And he, once again, Miami had a tough, rough season, and he still stayed by that, really believes in what's going on at Miami. He obviously does so by making his, commitment official with the signing. And I think it's good. He's a very vocal guy. One of those guys that definitely felt strongly about Miami. 6'3", 300 pounds, projects as a guard, kind of at that level, at the next level. So he's certainly someone to watch for. Not a highly regarded guy like some of the other guys in this class. 3-star recruit, top 40 interior lineman according to the 24/7 Sports composite rankings. But again, we touch on some mentality stuff. There's things to like about some of the things he's bringing to the table, kind of his approach to the game with what we know of him so far.
Yeah, I mean, Antonio Tripp, again, another guy that has that right mentality in terms of being an offensive lineman. He wants to come in here and he wants to compete. And, maybe he's not one of these day one contributors, but he's the guy that can, continue to work here, gets to Miami in January, gets into that strength and conditioning program and all those things. And I think down the line, I think you're looking at a potential rotational piece, a potential starter, whether that be at the guard or maybe even at center. I think that's a potential landing spot for Tripp down the line as well. So again, I know that he's someone that people around the program are excited about, ready to kind of bring him into the program and get to work, kind of see what they got with him. I think Tripp is one of those guys that still has maybe a ways to go in terms of his development. But I think once he gets there, I think he definitely shows promise in terms of being an offensive lineman who can potentially contribute here.
So there you go. Antonio Tripp is in. Also, I definitely want to mention Samson Oak Lola, a 5-star recruit, Miami's first 5-star to officially sign today. Miami's got 3 of them. It's certainly impressive. I want to shout out Bangkok Vice. Appreciate that support there with the super chat. Definitely let me know if there's a topic you want to talk about, a highlight, a player, a signee that you want to hear from next. Definitely shout out to everybody that's in here. Great to see so much support. Definitely just dropped this signing day show on a whim. I didn't hype it up, so it's great to see as many people in here. There's a lot to get into, a lot of exciting stuff to go to. I added Tripp to the ticker. Definitely going to add Samson Oak Lola, 16th guy. Now have signed. Miami, 3rd ranked class in the country. And as you can see here, I did the top 10. Clemson is the 2nd highest ACC school at number 10. And then Florida right now has a number 11 class. Some people interested in that. If we can kind of scroll down a little bit, look at the rest of the top 25 or so, you see some familiar names. Florida State sitting at 18. Definitely keep an eye on them as well. I know many people want to see where Miami, Florida State all rank. Definitely a lot of head-to-head battles with those 2 schools, especially down the stretch as it goes along. So Miami sitting at number 3. It's very impressive what this coaching staff has been able to do. A lot of people, a lot of hands on deck with all of this stuff going on. People want to know about surprises. Anything happening today? What will happen today? Again, as I mentioned, names to watch. Cornerback Damari Brown, number 33 cornerback in the country. Great length, someone to pay attention to. I'll drop his highlights in a bit as I got a chance to see him play. Also, maybe another guy to watch, and maybe you guys can drop, but Edwin Joseph. It looks like a Florida State lean, but a local athlete, cornerback. I saw him at wide receiver the first time I caught eyes on him. An impressive guy. One of these guys that just kind of rose essentially out of nowhere, kind of becomes a Division I prospect, then, kind of goes up the ladder where it's, from Division I, then Power 5, then all of a sudden the Big 3, or at least Miami, Florida State involved with them. So just one of these guys in South Florida that has really emerged in a fast period of time. So good to see when players do that. Another one, Stanquan Clark. Definitely keep your eye on that. I know Miami's tried to get him for a long time now. Even back at Killian, he was a highly regarded guy. Transfers to Miami Central, wins a state title there. I know people got a chance to see him. I did get a chance to watch that state championship game, Central American Heritage. I saw some comments about Brandon Ennis. Just to let you know, Brandon Ennis is that guy. He's absolutely everything people say he is. I've always been impressed with him ever since I watched him play as an 8th grader. And he's just really good. Impressed once again at the state championship game. Miami's recruiting class, I'm really excited about a lot of these guys. You're filling a lot of needs. You're hearing Gabby and I speak about this, filling a lot of needs. And also a lot of these guys won at a high level this past season, which I think is great. Another thing too, a lot of these guys will be at the Under Armour All-America game and the All-American Bowl in Texas, the 2 premier all-star games for seniors. It's great seeing Miami so well represented in those games. Definitely shout out to everybody that's in here right now. All kinds of great stuff going on. I definitely, let's get into some Samson. I'm going to update everything on the ticker, but I want to show you guys Samson Oak Lola, some things there. And as Gabby and I talk about him, certainly certainly a very highly regarded guy, and deservedly so. Everything I've seen from him and talking to people, he's very impressive. I know Francis is more of the headliner, but Samson, getting him late was certainly impressive. Five-star offensive tackle Samson Oak Lola signs with the Miami Hurricanes. A huge get for the Hurricanes, a 5-star talent. There's a lot to like about this 6'5", 305-pounder.
I mean, yeah, you mentioned it, blue chip. I mean, really top end talent. These are the type of prospects that Mario Cristobal, Alex Mirabal need to stack if they want to reinvent that offensive line. Really, really impressive pickup for them down to the wire with Florida. Really Michigan State too there at the end. And Mario Cristobal, those guys found a way to come up on top for the nation's number 3 offensive tackle. I mean, that's the way to do it. It's done through the trenches. That's the way that they want to build this thing out, kind of start it up front and then kind of build it out. So, I mean, this is just a massive win for the program, and picking up his signature is, these guys are ready to get him on campus and start getting their hands on him.
Yeah, you touched on it. This staff absolutely wants to have a strong offensive line, but to me, it's one thing to say you want to do it, but to go out and execute it and getting high-level talent like Samson really shows a lot, especially when this was, as you mentioned, a difficult recruiting task. It makes it more difficult when you only win 5 games. So to be able to do this and have confidence from the recruits to in your coaching staff and what you're building says a lot about this staff. They should definitely be excited. Miami fans should be excited about this one because it fills an extreme need for this program. And anytime you can get a tackle, whether it's left or right, you definitely feel good about your recruiting class. And certainly Samson has a lot to offer, and also a recruiting area that certainly Miami does well at times in, but this definitely adds to that case.
Yeah, Samson Oak Lola is a potential day one, starter for Miami, whether that be at a tackle spot or whether that be even potentially at guard. I mean, he is one of the freakiest athletes along the offensive line that you'll see. All you got to do is scroll to his social media page, look up his pinned tweet, and watch him kind of exploding out of, off of his knees into like a pass set and kind of, kick stepping back. I mean, the guy can absolutely move. He's a technician. He's a hard, relentless worker. And again, just a high level athlete, also a big time wrestler too. So, these are, you don't want to just add big, massy bodies to the offensive line. You want athletes up there. And that's exactly what Miami's getting in Samson Oak Lola.
It's going to be exciting to see where his career goes from here. As you mentioned, he's going to have an opportunity, whether he earns it or whatever, but he's certainly going to have an opportunity to show what he can do immediately. And certainly you like the future, but the future could be now with Samson and his abilities. Like you mentioned, his pass blocking and run blocking look good. It looks like he'll be ready to go, certainly compete and be in the mix. And that's what you want with these high level guys. So there's a lot to like with Samson Oak Lola. Again, once again, I'm going to break down some offensive line stuff as it moves forward, as the rest of the guys, in particular Francis Mauigoa, once he signs, definitely get into some more offensive line stuff. Definitely appreciate everybody. Carlos just jumped on the comments. Great channel. Thank you. Great support from all of the Miami Hurricanes fans. I definitely, as I mentioned in the chat, I want to thank everybody for all your support, just not today, but just over the time and over this past recruiting cycle. It's been a lot of exciting stuff. I know it's a disappointing season with how it went. Hopefully people feel good about the future. There's a lot to like about a lot of these guys because of what they're bringing to the table. These are guys that you can see being productive players at Miami if they continue the progression that they've already been on throughout their high school career. There's a lot to like. Also just the workouts, the things we've been hearing about certain guys and seeing them as well. They certainly seem to have a good upside value to them. And I think that's kind of the takeaway with this. It's not just that they're good right now, but I think there's a great base with a lot of these guys. And I think they can continue to get better, continue to move forward with their careers. Once again, a lot of stuff coming in here. I didn't put on the ticker, but there are 2 transfers as well. If you're late, if you're just kind of jumping in, Miami has gotten 2 transfers. Transfers are a little bit different in terms of signing day. Sometimes they can announce it's a little bit different with letter of intent and things like that. But 2 guys did come out publicly and announce their intentions that they will be transferring to Miami. That's Alabama offensive lineman Javion Cohen. Check out the comments on the channel from him. Kind of slotted in at left guard there at Alabama. Looks to be a starter at Miami. And then also another guy as well, Devontae Brown, the older brother of Damari Brown, a cornerback from UCF, good size at 6'2". He has also decided to transfer to Miami. There's a couple other guys to pay attention to on this transfer list. I definitely want to make mention of them. Thomas Gore, pay attention to him. Georgia State defensive tackle, really impressive guy that played nose guard, put up big numbers, looking to take that next jump in his career. Miami would like to have him. We'll see if he ends up being a Hurricane, but definitely stay tuned with him. And then also at linebacker, you're looking at a lot of linebackers that Miami has signed in this class. And adding to the class, it's been a position of need, one we've talked about quite a bit over the past year or two. But one guy to pay attention to, Francisco Mauigoa, the older brother of Miami commit at this point, looked to be signee Francis Mauigoa. A linebacker at Washington State, had an impressive second season there for the Cougars. Looks to take that next jump. I really like his size, but definitely pay attention to Gore and Mauigoa as potential transfers. Maybe it pops today, maybe sometime this week, but those are two targets for Miami that they're looking at. There's some other names as well, some other guys that have been Miami has expressed interest. Definitely check out InsideTheU.com. I've got the list right in front of me, but you definitely check out all the names there, transfer list there. So I definitely just want to make sure I address that as we are into signing day here. Once again, Miami's got a great recruiting class, number 3 in the country. There are some names to pay attention to, but the names they've gotten on board I think is great. On a day like this, when you're come into the day, number 3 in the country, leading the ACC, you don't want to have any surprises with these top guys where they back off their commitment and go the other way. So as long as these guys kind of continue to push forward, make it official, sign their letter of intent, you should be excited. You shouldn't think too much. You shouldn't downplay some of this stuff that might be happening today, because this is when it's official, and we've seen a lot of things happen for Miami in the positive in the past couple of weeks. So for everything to hold still today, that would be certainly a big win. As far as when guys sign, it's a little interesting with signing day if you're kind of new to it. Guys can sign at any point during the day. 7 o'clock a.m. is when it opens up. Guys can sometimes sign their letter of intent at that time and then have a ceremony later. For example, Jackson Carver, tight end, originally from Minnesota, he has already submitted his letter of intent, but he's not having his signing day ceremony until 5 o'clock. So in terms of some of these guys, as far as the IMG guys, we don't have the official times, and because those guys aren't, they go to IMG and sometimes they go home after the semester break. They kind of do their own thing. So it's a little bit different at IMG. As far as when exactly Francis signs today, we don't have that on our list, but as far as we know, everything is still in play for Francis to sign his letter of intent with Miami. Not expecting any big surprises with him. Antonio Tripp out of IMG has signed. I played his comments before. Definitely watch it back. Cormani McLean as well. Another 5-star guy from Lakeland. One to definitely still has not signed as far as I know. Last check in here. A couple other guys. Let's get right into them. 2 guys since I did the last update. Riley Williams has officially signed with Miami. Also, Caleb Spencer out of Virginia. He's a safety, kind of listed as a linebacker. Those 2 guys have officially signed. Pushes the number from 16 to 18 official signees. Let's get into some stuff with Riley Williams, because I'm excited about him. A highly regarded tight end, one of the top 5 tight ends in the country. He's someone that I had a chance to see over the summer. Impressive guy. So let's find out more about Riley, talk with Gabby, get his thoughts on Riley Williams as well. Miami lands a big-time tight end, number 4 tight end in the country, according to the 24/7 Sports composite rankings, and Riley Williams out of IMG Academy, one of 4 guys from IMG coming to the Hurricanes. There's a lot to like about Riley. 6'6", 240 pounds.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big-time tight end, right? This is the way you kind of draw them up when you're kind of scouring through the country looking for potential tight ends. I mean, Riley Williams is definitely, he definitely checks a lot of the boxes in terms of what you're looking for physically, what you're looking for, in terms of being a receiving threat. I know as a junior at his school in Oregon, he was, probably the team's top pass catcher. I think he had close to 700 yards receiving, came down to IMG Academy to cap off his high school career. And then, just kind of physically continued to mature there. I mean, up to 240 pounds. Again, this is the type of dude that you want to recruit. And when you're looking at the national landscape of top tight ends, Riley Williams, I think is, right in the mix of all the top names that you sort of read about. Again, like I mentioned earlier, Portland, Oregon native. His older brother played for Mario Cristobal at Oregon. Your family's bought in with the program. Again, moved him down to the Sunshine State so he could start getting acclimated to the weather and get into a big time strength and conditioning program over at IMG before he's gets to Coral Gables. And again, this is there's opportunity with Will Mallory leaving. Maybe, potentially, some other guys coming back on the roster. I think the expectation is that Riley Williams comes in and tries to get them some help.
And watching Riley at the UA Future 50 over the summer, a lot of highly talented guys there. And what you like to see is from a Miami commit is if they stand out, do they live up to the ranking? I think there was no question that Riley Williams certainly was one of the best tight ends in the country, one of the best guys we saw there making plays. He can also stretch the field, which you like at the tight end spot. He looks like he's got good hands. He moves well. He's certainly someone that you can build upon because there's a lot to like about, again, with his frame, his ability to catch passes. I like how he can kind of move around a little bit. And I know that's what Miami likes with their tight ends. And they want to keep this tight end production thing going. It has been like this at Miami for a number of years over the years. And regardless of who's coaching or what the offense looks like, Miami has always had tight ends. And I think Riley Williams certainly likes that. In addition to those things you just mentioned about his ties to Cristobal.
Yeah, and then the an impressive catch radius. Has the verified athleticism, has a strong basketball background. I know he got it done on the hardwood too, which is always a promising I guess factor for tight ends. I mean, there's a lot of really great tight ends across NFL history that at one point were considered basketball players. So I think all that type of stuff all translates to the gridiron. And Riley Williams is one of those guys that Miami beat out some heavy hitters for. I mean, he took official visits to Alabama and Ohio State. I think Oregon was in there for much of his recruitment too. But I mean, Miami won out a recruitment that could have gone a different direction to another national powerhouse. So, this was just an absolutely huge win for Mario Cristobal, for Coach Stephen Field, who has really done a great job bringing in tight ends over the past few cycles. So I think you got to tip your cap there. And Riley Williams, again, I mean, this is the way you want your tight ends to look. And I think Miami's slowly starting to build this roster back, across multiple levels, really, to the way it should look at the Power 5 level and beyond in terms of being a national contender. So Riley Williams is a big-time addition at a position that, that really Miami wants to utilize and kind of, factor into this offense.
What's going on? So as we were talking, I got a message, as you guys probably know, maybe you don't. Cormani McClain, his mother said he's not going to sign today. Definitely big news for the Hurricanes, 5-star player out of Lakeland. Trying to find out more information on that as we speak. Definitely we'll check that out, check into that, get you guys some more content as we speak, but definitely just going to check in that. Definitely drop in the comments. Let me know. Do you think this is something big or something to worry about? I'm gonna check in to try to get some answers for you guys. But definitely stay tuned there. Again, Riley Williams, another big time guy. Miami lands official signee right now. Also, let's go to about Caleb Spencer. He just signed. There's some other, I haven't done everything, but definitely Caleb Spencer's a guy not many people know about, but I think maybe you'd like to hear more about him. And also, I do want to mention he's listed as a number 63 linebacker, but Miami views him as a safety, and we'll talk about that. But I'm going to leave him as a linebacker actual in the listing because that's what he's officially ranked as. But just want to make that note so you guys are aware of what's going on with him in that sense. So let's find out more about Caleb. Miami lands 6'3" safety Caleb Spencer out of Virginia. At one point, it looked like he was headed to Oklahoma, but the Hurricanes land Spencer.
Yeah, this was one of those weird recruitments where he randomly committed, to Miami. Flip from that Oklahoma commitment. Miami got him on, to Hard Rock Stadium for a game very quietly. He was one of those, one of multiple secret visitors, if you want to call him that way, over the course of the fall. Miami had been working on that. Jamal Dye, the defensive backs coach, secondaries coach, has a lot of ties to the state of Virginia, having spent time with the Mountaineers and, just really in that area. So he was able to get this one done. And again, you talk about the size, 6'3", 210, 215 pounds. And, you turn on the tape and he's someone, again, that's a willing participant, is looking for contact. He actually came down to South Florida this fall, played against Stranahan, where Hakeem Williams, the 5-star wide receiver, plays. And he put on a clinic. I mean, 24/7 Sports national analyst Andrew Ivins kind of threw an Isaiah Simmons comp at Caleb Spencer coming off of that game. That was mostly because he was going to go play for Brent Venables and the Sooners, of course. But he is that type of player where he's listed as a safety, Could probably play some linebacker, maybe even some nickel. And I think he seems like a defender that can play at all levels of a defense and be impactful, and especially in the run game, all those things. And again, a guy that's willing to strike, and I think that that's a really, really big deal in terms of what Miami's trying to make this defense look like.
And having that versatility, as you mentioned, can certainly help a defense because you can move guys around. It's all about getting the top 11 guys on the field or some matchup stuff, depending on what the other teams are trying to do. So having someone like Spencer to be able to plug in there, if you can get to that level where the coaches trust him, but a guy that can bring different things to the table, as you mentioned, maybe defend the pass a little bit, come up in the box. He's not just stuck in one spot. And I like the fact that they can do that with him. And once again, a guy that was committed, a guy that was looking to go to Oklahoma at one point, certainly a guy that brings a lot of intrigue to the position and the defense. Certainly one of these intriguing guys in the recruiting class. So certainly a lot to like. Just an intriguing guy, not a highly regarded guy, but certainly someone to pay attention to. Again, some position flexibility, possibly with Caleb Spencer if he continues to develop. So once again, big news, Cormani McClain not planning on signing today. We will see how that goes moving forward. A lot of guys have signed. I do want to circle back. I haven't been able to do breakdowns on every single player quite yet. Haven't a chance to show you guys all of these breakdowns. There's some interesting guys with this one. And I definitely want to, let's talk about Robbie Washington a little bit, kind of going back to wide receiver. Already talked about Nathaniel Joseph, but, Robbie Washington is just one of these exciting playmaker guys, one of these mentality guys that I think Miami fans should definitely be excited for, and certainly one to watch for moving forward. Had a chance to see him play, and definitely hear some thoughts with Gabby as well. And shout out Gabby for all the hard work, but also for dropping in on these videos, definitely adding to the channel. Hopefully you guys like that. Shout out Gabby. Wide receiver Robbie Washington out of Miami Palmetto signs with the Miami Hurricanes. He's one of these guys that's certainly fun to watch. A very competitive wide receiver, 4-star recruit, top 30 in the country, according to the 24/7 Sports composite rankings. There's a lot to like about him, but in particular with me, all the times I've seen him, I really like his competitiveness, that fire, that desire, and he's going head to head with anybody that steps across the field from him.
Yeah, Chris, I mean, the way you describe Robbie Washington is that he's a dog, right? I think that, you mentioned the competitiveness. I mean, he is that guy. He wants the ball in his hands, and people might take that the wrong way. Like if he doesn't, he's going to pout around, but I think he's a high level teammate too. I think, I've watched him multiple times on the sidelines, encouraging his quarterbacks, talking to his guys, all those different types of things, celebrating others' success. Robbie Washington is a competitor through and through. I think from a mentality standpoint, he's exactly what you want to bring to this wide receiver room. 5'10", 185 pounds. Some people might think that means he's a slot guy. I don't think that that's the plan for him at all. I think he could definitely do that, but he seems like a versatile, type of receiver who could probably play some X. Play in the slot. I think that's the plan for him, is for him to play mostly outside, be able to kick inside and be able to line him up, move him around all over the field. I mean, I see the 24/7 Sports comparison, and I saw Anaya Smith. I mean, we watched Texas A&M play earlier this year, Chris, and we watched the way that Jimbo Fisher kind of moved him around, and I can definitely see Robbie Washington being of that mold. Really electric. I mean, I think that's a way to do it. I mean, we talk about some guys with the high end speed. I think Robbie Washington has a lot of that too. And then he's just kind of He's just kind of like lightning in a bottle. He can make you miss in a phone booth. He's physical. He can definitely fight for those extra yardages. And then, definitely a confident kid. I think, again, when you're looking at the state of Miami's receiver room, it seems like Robbie Washington has the right mentality in terms of what this room needs to add. I think that they're trying to change a little bit of that. And Robbie Washington is someone who's going to come in there and I think definitely bring some juice to Josh Gaddis's room.
You touched on some of the things and ways he can be used, and that's what stands out to me too. Just being out there, there's a practice I went to that stood out to me, lining up one-on-one, trying to go the outside. He likes to go deep on guys, try to beat corners, one-on-one coverage, looking to go in the end zone there. But also, he could get on some drag routes, go across the middle, catch some passes in that way. But like you said, he's a guy who, once the ball's in his hands, has a chance to make people miss. He's trying to make people miss. He wants to keep it going, get to the end zone with big plays. And like I said, the mentality, you're always looking for that with guys as they make the transition to the next level? How will it translate? Because certainly there's a lot you have to have physically to make it at the next level, but certainly with the competition, either at practice or even just for playing time, going up against these other guys, you've got to pass some guys up. So it certainly gets competitive out there, not within your own room, not just who you go against, but I think he's got the right mentality and certainly one to watch for in the future at Miami. So definitely just hearing about Robbie there, talking about Robbie. We'll get to Bobby here real quick. Again, I'm working on some videos. Make sure you guys have those loaded to the website as well. Some reaction pieces, as well as we get in more updates on what's going on live with this. So yeah, it's certainly interesting. There's some details on with Cormani McClain on the website. Again, his mother tweeted out that false alarm. There will be no signing for Cormani McClain today. Sorry for the inconvenience. That's what we have at this moment. That's the quote that she gave, and we will certainly see how things go moving forward. You know, he's a highly regarded guy. This sometimes happens. Number 2 player in the country, and Cormani McClain, high-level guy, number 1 cornerback. To me, he was the best cornerback. I said that a long time ago before he picked Miami. I know some people have been kind of down on him or doubting him, but look, this guy's a real deal. He's a big-time player. I've been very impressed with him. I like his upside, certainly, and I think he's only going to get better from what he's already shown. Definitely would be a big asset to Miami, but he's not going to sign today. The way early signing day period works, today is the big day, but it's a 3-day period. You have, today's Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday to sign during the early period. Then it picks up again to the regular period, which starts there in February, the way it works, in case you guys are kind of learning more about recruiting and the early signing day period, which is new in the last few years. So it's a hectic day for Miami in that sense. They do get other players. I want to jump on the chat real quick here, kind of check in what's going on. Yeah, everybody wants to know why Cormani's not signed. Definitely stay tuned. Yeah, Alabama, Florida, those are 2 big programs that I would certainly like to add Cormani. Every program in the country would. But those are the 2 schools to probably pay attention to. Florida, based on location. Alabama, just a high-level program. Obviously, it's the program for college football, and certainly to pay attention to there. On the sound, it looks like I'm good to go here. Definitely let me know if you. Yeah, it looks like I think I'm good to go. So apologize if you're not able to get it, but I look like I'm good to go on my end. So. Again, let's keep going on some more interviews. Let's get back to Bobby Washington, live updates. Certainly jump in the chat. I've got some more stuff to do on the back end, checking the phones as we speak, as we go along here. So definitely appreciate everybody for being here. So let's Bobby Washington, a linebacker. Miami's getting big linebackers in this class, and Bobby Washington is certainly one of them. Bobby Washington is bringing size, speed, and athleticism to the Miami Hurricanes as a linebacker, 4-star recruit out of Miami Palmetto.
Yeah, Bobby Washington, man. This was, I think, Miami rolling the dice earlier in the process on this linebacker prospect, and I think this is one that's going to eventually pay off for him. I think that, he's as physical as they come of any of the linebackers in this group. I think, Chris, we both know that that's something that the linebacker room has been really missing over the past few seasons, is really just that the physicality, that willingness to seek contact, to follow through. And I don't think I've seen anyone with more violent intentions on the football field than I have seen with Bobby Washington. I mean, some of the biggest hits I've seen at the high school level, just kind of standing on sidelines, have come from Bobby Washington. And you might have to tame that just a tiny bit. You obviously want him to be hitting that hard and doing it the right way. But I think the mentality and that killer instinct is definitely inside of him. That's something that's innate, that he's kind of he naturally has. And you talk about the size and the speed. I mean, you can't teach 6'3", 215, could be pushing 220 by now. And again, once he gets into a college strength and conditioning program, I think that he's someone that's going to look very, very different. And Bobby Washington is the way that you want a Power 5 linebacker to look, and I think you have to be very encouraged. The speed is legitimate as well. Just watching him run, he has a twin brother, Robbie Washington, who really grew up kind of a track star. I know Bobby Washington and Robbie have raced, and there are lures of how close those races actually are. And I think Bobby can absolutely move. I think he's a high upside kid, and I think if he reaches his peak, I mean, the rewards that Miami's going to reap from that are going to be very, very, clearly known.
Bobby's physical attributes stand out, but also talking to the coaching staff over at Palmetto, they really like his football intelligence. And I think part of that plays into the fact that they feel comfortable and confident in moving him around the defense a little bit, either a linebacker spot, maybe a rush in type spot, moving them around just to make sure they're maximizing it. And if you can grasp the defense at Miami, I think they're going to move them around, or at least have that potential, maybe on some blitz packages. But again, you want to take advantage of that speed combination with his athleticism. I think he's going to be a linebacker that can range sideline to sideline, but finishing off tackles will be the biggest thing for Bobby, for any linebacker. And from what I've seen, he definitely is going to do that. Like you mentioned, Gabby, it's impressive what he's bringing to the table. Certainly an upgrade at that spot is what they're looking for, and it looks like they got that in Robbie Washington. So certainly someone to watch for there at linebacker. You know, with those two guys, it's just impressive, and I really like their connection, and it's really fun to kind of see them on the field together. A lot of respect they both have, obviously, of each other, going about it different ways, different positions, different players, different people, but certainly two guys that Miami's excited to have here. Just looking at a few other things as we're moving along here. A lot going on today. Big news, a lot of stuff going on as we continue to update the website on InsideTheU.com with plenty of articles on these players' reaction. There's a live thread over there with updates as well. And I know everyone's working to get information on Cormani to see what's going on there with Cormani McClain, 5-star player, number 2 player in the country. Top cornerback decides not to sign today. So we will see how things go moving forward. If you guys remember last year, again, 3-day period. Last year, Jaleel Skinner, highly regarded tight end, he actually did not sign. He made his announcement the next day. It was after the first day, though. He flipped from Alabama to Miami. So we'll see how things go with Cormani. Definitely stay tuned with that. Definitely appreciate everybody in the chat. Looking at more stuff here. Let's get into some more interviews. Again, there's plenty of stuff going on. A lot of players have signed. Shout out to the new subscribers to the channel. We just hit that 19,000 mark, so that's definitely huge. Appreciate everybody there. We're going to get to 20,000. Definitely going to keep pumping out more content to do that. So I appreciate everybody there. Let's look at some more signees. Some guys that have come on board for Miami. You know, some exciting guys to look for. I think another guy to watch for, another guy that I didn't mention earlier, another IMG guy that I had kind of lost track of, but Jaden Wayne, he did sign. So the only IMG guy that we're waiting on of the 4 is Francis Mauigoa, as Antonio Tripp, Jaden Wayne, and now Riley Williams have signed. But Jaden Wayne, certainly one of those guys that you should be excited about, a highly regarded guy before he made the move to IMG. 4-star defensive end Jaden Wayne made the move from Washington to IMG for his senior year. Now he's going to make his way to Coral Gables, a 4-star recruit that's highly impressive, 6'5". I really like what Wayne's bringing to the table.
Yeah, you talk about an edge rusher that, you know, the size and just kind of checks all those boxes, 6'5", 245. A guy who I think is going to be able to add on weight pretty quickly, maybe get closer to that 260 range. You know, really, again, just as an early enrollee in January through the strength program, I think he has a really good foundation to, you know, be a big, strong, you know, again, defender, just kind of setting that edge. I'm really excited about Jaden Wayne. He was a national recruit, like you mentioned, Chris, from the Washington area. Took his time with his recruiting process, visited a bunch of schools. I mean, took more unofficial visits than, you know, a lot of other recruits throughout the process. At one point was considered an Alabama lean. Georgia was in the mix for a long time. Ultimately, it was Mario Cristobal and Miami who was able to land his commitment over the summer. And, you know, I think that this is just one of those additions that, because it's kind of he's been in the class so long, we kind of forget about how impactful it is. But I'm really excited about Jaden Wayne and his future in Miami, because I think when he's coached up and he kind of, you know, puts it all together, I think he could have a very special career.
I think getting that competition at IMG, going against those talented offensive linemen, particularly with Francis Mauigoa, getting a chance to see those guys, what it's going to take at the next level, is going to be very helpful for him. And now going to Miami, he becomes part of this kind of this young core of pass rushers. Last year, we got to see with Nigel Kelly. We didn't get to see enough of Cyrus Moss, but highly talented guys. And now Wayne jumps into the mix with him, along with other guys in this recruiting class that you definitely got to be excited about. And Miami wants to rush the passer, and they're not just content on getting 1 or 2 guys that has talent. Getting Jaden Wayne in here, I think, is very impressive, because like you mentioned, it's one of these other guys that's just a very difficult recruiting task to get him on campus, because a lot of teams would like to have him.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Jaden Wayne is a huge win for the program. And just kind of looking to what he can be on the field. I mean, I'm really encouraged by the athleticism. He's a guy that played like some wide receiver, tight end over the course of his high school career. And you know, you don't see a lot of defensive ends playing 7-on-7 football. He's playing tight end, catching passes, you know, for his team up in the Pacific Northwest. So he's a guy that can move around, has that functional athleticism. And again, has just really, I mean, he can move a little bit. He's not just like a stiff, big, tall guy. I mean, this is a guy that definitely has some juice. And again, once he kind of puts everything together with Coach Rod Wright, with Jason Taylor, I think that this could be really encouraging. And you mentioned Nigel E. Kelly, Cyrus Moss, some of the other pass rushers Miami has been able to add. I think they're doing a fantastic job of stacking talent at that position. And it's a premium one in the sport of football. When we talk pass rushers, you talk quarterback, you talk left tackle, cornerbacks. I mean, you need to have those positions, you know, really, you know, juiced up. You need to have one on top of the other. And I think Miami's starting to make it look the way it's supposed to look.
So once again, certainly Jaden Wayne, highly impressive prospect there with good size. Miami wants to add size on the defensive line as well as the offensive line. It's a priority, and that's kind of my takeaway. I've mentioned that in the past, but it's great that Miami, this staff, identified major needs of this program, of this roster, and they addressed it. And I think that's what we're seeing on the defensive line in particular. I think at linebacker as well, adding the number of guys that they did at that spot. And then the offensive line, you know, they have 5 guys, 4 have already signed. So they want to, you know, improve with what they have. And I think they really addressed these needs. So as it stands, we're still waiting on a few guys to sign that were committed. Right now, Miami's got 18 guys that have signed. Still waiting on 6. Once again, Cormani McClain is not going to sign today. Francis Mauigoa, Collins Ichiampong, Antoine Jackson, Christopher Johnson, Emery Williams are the others yet to sign. So we will see. We will see. I think that the stuff, the Dillard guys, just kind of waiting on them. I know some people posted here on the chat. Okay. Yeah, just kind of checking here. I know the updates are going to come along. Hopefully you guys are still getting the video. Everything's coming in clear there. Again, you got some ceremonies happening in the afternoon. It's 10 o'clock here, just after 10 o'clock Eastern time. Mario Cristobal is going to do his press conference to address the recruiting class at 4 o'clock. We will definitely be there and post his comments and get his reaction. He'll talk about the class as it winds up. Once again, a big one to watch, Damari Brown, a cornerback out of American Heritage. He's going to announce his at 3:15 p.m. on ESPN Live. So definitely stay tuned with that. That's a big one there. If you're talking about, are they going to get some guys that are uncommitted, he's one to watch for. Some other ones too. So I know Conrad Hussey was a guy. Again, definitely drop in if these guys have been made official, but Conrad Hussey was a St. Thomas Aquinas guy that they've liked for a long time. He's been committed to Penn State. Florida State certainly in the mix as well. One to watch for, I would say, if I were to get, Florida State seems like it, the choice for Conrad. We will see how that goes. Once again, Edwin Joseph, another guy, Chaminade Madonna, athlete, wide receiver, cornerback, kind of can get it done. Some people see him more as a cornerback, but he's another guy to kind of pay attention to. And then Stanquan Clark. These are guys that have not committed to Miami, but guys Miami's trying to get on board. Again, Stanquan Clark, a Louisville commit. He committed to Louisville back in August. Someone Miami's been trying to get, once again, just trying to get better at linebacker. And I like that this staff is not, even though they've got a great class, they're continuing to try to add more pieces to it. So we will see how things go with Stanquan. Paying attention to him. We've paid attention to him for quite a while now. If you've been paying attention to the local scene, out of Killian there, and then makes the move to Miami Central, wins a state title. Impressive game from him this past weekend there over American Heritage, 38-31, Class 3M state championship for the Rockets. Continue to rack up state titles, which is great for Miami-Dade County. Reuben Bain, I want to get to him. Not had a chance to show you guys, get our thoughts on that one. One of these just really exciting players to me. I think a lot of fans are certainly really excited about Reuben, and it was great kind of following his recruiting journey, but also just seeing the fanfare that he got as this thing moved along. And I think that was kind of fun to see. And I know he was excited, and he finally makes that commitment to Miami. One of the recruits with the biggest fanfare during this recruiting cycle is Reuben Bain, a defensive end out of Miami Central, a highly productive guy, 4-star recruit, number 9 edge rusher in the country, according to the 24/7 Sports composite rankings.
Yeah, Chris. I mean, this is a massive pickup for Miami. Another recruitment they had to kind of continue to chip away for. They got him down the final stretch of the cycle. I mean, you'll be hard pressed to find a high school defensive lineman, pass rusher, edge defender that's been more productive than Reuben Bain over the course of 4 years with Miami Central, a program he won 4 consecutive state championships with, 92 tackles for loss and 57 sacks. I mean, that's just not something you run into every day. And that's what the type of player that Miami's getting with Reuben Bain. He's he's a technician. He's very advanced with his hands in the way that he kind of, uses all his, his power and all those things. And I'm not sure if he's going to be a day one impact guy, but I do think he could be a situational pass rusher for the Hurricanes as a true freshman. And man, I just think that Miami got a future leader of the program, a future leader on that defensive line. And we talk about trenches and how important it is to get the offensive line and the defensive line right. Reuben Bain is a massive addition for Kevin Steele on that defense.
I think one of the things that's great with Reuben is it does not take very long when you're watching him play for him to stand out. Again, you go into a game, you don't have to wonder where he is and what he's going to do. He's making plays all over the field. He just has this really good knack of, like you mentioned, the sack numbers are very impressive, highly productive. You just don't see those numbers even with talented guys. And for him to continue to pile up stats, and every opponent knows what he's about, and he's still able to continue to rack up sacks, tackles for loss. And certainly the way the game is going now, you definitely got to have those edge rushers. You can never have enough of them. And he has a unique size and speed combination, but just that overall ability, that knack to get quarterbacks and ball carriers down behind the line of scrimmage is certainly a benefit to any defense.
I'll never forget watching him go at it with IMG Academy, watching him match up with Francis Mauigoa. I mean, I watched him go up against a couple of elite pass rushers. I thought Reuben Bain gave him as much as he could handle as anybody else. And, it did take him kicking inside over the guard spot to really make his biggest impact. And that's where he ended up collecting 3 sacks in an upset win over IMG Academy. That national powerhouse's only loss of the 2022 season. But I mean, watching Reuben Bain and Francis go at it, I mean, I think it's obvious that it's an iron sharpens iron type of situation. And watching those guys, I mean, knowing those guys are going to be practicing against one another here for the foreseeable future on Green Tree just shows me that everyone involved is going to get better, because Reuben Bain is a really high motor kid. And when he kind of gets rolling, I mean, there's not really anyone in the country who I think can really contain him.
You touched on his state championships, and for me, I feel like that's such an important factor for a program trying to get back to winning at a consistent level, for a program that's not won at a high level lately. Getting guys that are used to winning, not used to losing, I think that can only help the program. So getting a guy that's won as many state championships as he did throughout his whole high school career is really impressive, and I think it can really infiltrate the rest of the program and really create this winning attitude. In addition to all these other leadership qualities and his ability to make plays, I think just having that winning attitude can really help the program moving forward. So certainly a lot to like for there. I do want to look at these team rankings, see if anything changes with the top 10. We'll kind of refresh that and see if anything's moving at all with that. But again, Miami, number 3 program in the country right now, ranked number 3. It's great to see Miami leading the ACC as well. It's certainly a big accomplishment for the Hurricanes there. Looking at, again, these are top level programs as you see it right here. So we will see. We will see how things kind of shake out the rest of the day. I will jump into some more interviews, some other things kind of going on right now. All kinds of stuff going on. Okay, we got some more I want to get to some more interviews because we've just not had enough time to kind of break down all these signees coming in. It's been a lot of guys. There's a lot of reasons to like these guys. I'm glad you guys are excited about. Look, I just jumped on the chat here. Sean David excited about Popo at linebacker. So let's jump in there with Sean's comments. Let's talk about Popo, Raul Aguirre here. What's going on, everybody? A special guest here. We got Ben Moore, covers Georgia State with Panther Talk in the 24/7 Sports Network. He has seen Miami signee Raul Aguirre Popo, a linebacker, four-star guy. He's seen him quite a bit, so we're going to get his thoughts on him. Ben, with him, Miami fans are excited. You know, Miami wants to improve their linebacker group. Kind of just maybe explain your background, how much you've seen him, and maybe what kind of player is Popo here.
Sure. Get a chance to obviously cover Metro Atlanta recruiting as well, getting a lot of games all around the Metro Atlanta area. And Popo's been a really strong player. Has played inside linebacker, outside linebacker for his squad here in Whitewater High School, just south of the Atlanta airport, if you're familiar with Metro Atlanta there, and a loaded Wildcat squad. Even had some opportunity to kind of get out, play some on offense as well. Exceptional athlete in space. That's the number one thing that just pops out from film and obviously in person as well. Can get out there and get his hands on the ball. Could honestly have an opportunity, depending on whether he wanted to slim down. Don't think it's probably in the Miami plans, but he could be a guy that could probably play safety or even an outside linebacker, kind of safety hybrid. Is fast enough to get out in space like that. Had just everybody and their brother Power Five looking at him. He took official visits to Ohio State and Alabama. Just impact player, probably one of the better players that I saw in the state of Georgia this year, especially on the defensive end. But really can impact the game on defense and in space, making tackles for loss, sacks. Didn't really blitz him a ton. The coaching staff just let him kind of operate in space and kind of use his natural physical ability to make plays. But on offense, they were a team that ran the triple option. He got many fullback blast plays, even caught some passes basically as a wideout as well. So extremely versatile athlete. Miami fans certainly should be very excited about Popo.
He was ranked as the 17th best linebacker according to 24/7 Sports rankings. Look, Miami's wanting to have better linebacker play over the last few years. It's really been a struggle for UM. Let's talk. I know you said playing in space, but against the run, where is he maybe as a tackler? That's obviously a number one job as a linebacker, but how would you kind of grade it? Anything that stands out to you with him as a tackler?
Yeah, always around the ball. That's the biggest thing that just pops out as well. But wherever the ball is, that's where he's usually flying to. He has the makeup speed and acceleration to really kind of accelerate through tackles. You see that he's very physical, and a guy I think too that could probably gain significant weight on the next level if that's what the coaching staff and strength and conditioning coaches would want him to do without losing a whole lot of speed. Really can get out in space. Kind of in between the junior and senior year, he didn't run at any of the camps. The 40-yard dash was dealing with a little bit some lower leg injuries. Kind of moved forward with that, and you could see the step forward too from his junior year, just being a really good physical athlete, about 215 pounds, to really moving and continuing to kind of evolve and feel more comfortable in his body in his senior year, and could be a guy that could play probably 235 pounds at the next level and not lose a lot of speed. So he continues to kind of grow and work on his body, and as we know, continue to eat better. As we know, and high school guys don't tend to eat better and lift as much. But he comes from a really good program, really strong program, where they fire off linebackers that go and really attack the ball, and he fit right in with that, and super comfortable to stick his nose in there and go after anybody, whether it's the quarterback or any ball carriers.
So that was great information from Ben Moore. Once again, in our 24/7 Sports Network, he's had a chance to see Popo play quite a bit. Somebody asked size on the chat. 6'2", 220 is what he's listed at. They're out of Whitewater. So a linebacker with size kind of has a long-standing relationship to Coach Cristobal in Miami. So he signs his letter of intent there. Once again, Miami's adding to its linebacker room. There's a lot of things going on today, a lot of new faces and all kinds of stuff. I do want to kind of revisit a little bit and talk about something that's been kind of a big news. Again, Cormani McClain not signing a five-star guy. Francis Mauigo is committed. He's not signed yet as far as I know, checking the latest update. But Miami does get a signee, five-star Samson Oak Lola. So he signs, and that's three guys. If Miami can add three, that'd be the first time to add three in a class since 2008. And five stars have been hard to come by over the years, and that's what I want to show you guys, just kind of taking a look at some five-star recruits in the 24/7 Sports era. As you can see here, it's just been not a ton of guys. And as you see here, some guys currently on the team in Leonard Taylor and James Williams from that 21 class. So you're starting to stack some talent there. And then you see some guys that were key parts. Chad Thomas, a key part of that 10-win team in 2017. Miami's only 10-win team since 2003. Duke Johnson had a phenomenal career at Miami. School's all-time leading rusher, 3 really highly productive years. Tracy Howard jumps in that class. Johnson and Howard, part of Al Golden's class. And you see Lorenzo Lingard injuries, transferred out. Just didn't work out at Miami, but certainly a bright recruit at the time. So sometimes 5-stars work out, sometimes they don't. But once again, Miami's looking to sign 3 5-stars in this class, which they have not done since 2008. So 15 years, and they're getting ready to, hopefully, from a Miami standpoint, that they end up signing 5. But as you can see here, they've not done that for quite a while. These are just, this is going back quite a ways. These are just the 5-star recruits that Miami's been able to land. So it's a big accomplishment for Miami. And I had a great discussion with David Lake that I'll post later about 5-star recruits. The big thing that he did a lot of research in this. I don't want to give everything away, but basically really broke it down on 5-star talent and what it means, and also what the college football playoff teams look like with their 5-star talent. Essentially, it's really a necessary thing for you to compete at a really high level, and that's what Miami wants to do. Certainly, they've got steps to go to get to that point, to compete for a playoff spot. Certainly the next step is a winning season, getting to a bowl game, winning a bowl game, getting to a conference championship game, winning a conference, and then you could start talking about playoff. But that's definitely what they want to do. So 5-star talent helps in that. 5-star talents doesn't mean everything's going to automatically work out for these guys and be first-round draft picks, but it gives you a great baseline, a great chance to move forward. And what I've seen with all 3 of these guys, with Cormani McClain, Francis Maui-Go, and Samson Oak Lola, you can see why they're so highly regarded based on watching them in person, watching them on film, learning more about their mentality, being around them a little bit. You can see why they are so highly regarded, not just by Miami, by a lot of teams in the country. And a lot of teams would like to have these guys. And I think that's what we're seeing a little bit right now with Cormani, just to make sure that Miami is the right place for him. And we will see how things go down the stretch. I know a lot of people might be nervous, and that's just part of being involved with highly regarded guys. Other teams want these players as well, and it's easy to have second thoughts. So we will see. We will see. Maybe nothing's going to go down. Everything's going to be fine. So we'll just pay attention to that as things go forward. But once again, 5-star recruits. Miami wants to get back to that. As you can see here, a lot of 5-star names on the list, but it's been a while since Miami's had a number of them. You get Leonard and James. Everybody remembers their recruitment. Once again, a lot of schools would like to have them. We will see. I thought Leonard Taylor made a nice jump in year 2 this past season. Tackles for loss over 10. Certainly played well with Darrell Jackson. Kind of that combination with Leonard Taylor can be that finesse guy, that finesse defensive tackle, willing to make tackles for loss, but he just has that athleticism, that speed. Coaches really praise his ability there with his talent. So they want to get the most out of him. We'll see. I think he's going to take another jump in year 3 in 2023. So stay tuned for Leonard Taylor having another big year. James Williams, we see flashes. He's got to make more plays, and I think he knows that. Had off-season shoulder surgery, so we will see how that goes and how he goes into year 3. But there's a lot to like with James. He just has to put it all together, and I think that there's still potential. Once again, he just has to make more plays. I think we saw Cam Kitchens really emerge, and I think you'd like to see James Williams emerge as well, kind of going into year 3 for him. So a lot of exciting stuff going on here. I want to get into some more interviews and other things kind of going on with the Hurricanes on signing day. 18 guys as we currently sit here now, continuing to check. And I can confirm Collins Achiampong has signed a letter of intent. 6'7" defensive end. A lot to like there. Had a chance to see him in the summer when he wasn't committed, but definitely had eyes on him even though he was not committed. But I want to show you guys. Let's talk about Collins. A lot of exciting stuff with 6'7" defensive end. Collins Achiampong comes to Miami, signs with the Hurricanes, a difficult recruiting task. They flip him from Michigan, certainly a guy that they've liked for a while now, but now he officially signs with Miami. He's certainly someone to be excited about, a 4-star prospect.
Yeah, Achiampong, really just, freaky measurables, 6'7", Chris, you mentioned it, 254 pounds, has basically a 7-foot wingspan. Has a lot of the verified numbers you want to see in terms of athleticism. I got to watch Achiampong a little bit at the Future 50 back when he was committed to Michigan, not long after he picked the Wolverines over the Hurricanes. And he's definitely someone that, a little raw for sure, but man, the athletic upside is just through the roof. And again, this is someone that hasn't played a lot of football, kind of came to the States to play basketball. Tried it out his freshman year, didn't play again until his senior year. And talking to, sources in the building back when his name first started to emerge, his freshman football tape was offerable as a class of 2023 prospect. So that's how much they thought about him. Tried to get him in the summer, couldn't do it. Eventually flipped him off of away from the Wolverines, a college football playoff contender. Massive win for the program, and you gotta add those high upside kids to the defensive line, and that's definitely what Mario Cristobal and Miami were able to do here.
In addition to his talent, the couple of things that you mentioned stand out to me with this recruitment is they identified a guy that they really wanted and didn't give up on it. And I think that's impressive. And to be able to flip him is also impressive because, again, Miami didn't have the season that they would like, especially like looking at a Michigan with the season that they had, but they stay with him. They identify talent, they get him on board, and it's really impressive. When you see him in person, again, you mentioned that Future 50, his size definitely stands out. His athletic ability, he's raw, but there's a lot to like about him. His length, being able to get through pads on certain drills, kind of just watching him there. And also his one-on-one moves is certainly impressive too. So once again, Miami is stacking talent at the defensive end spot. You definitely like his size. It's going to remind people of a Greg Rousseau who came through the program just recently because of his size at that spot. So once again, Miami's adding unique pieces to the defensive line, 6'7" defensive ends. You just don't see that very often. Still working on some things here. Let's get into some more interviews, some more breakdowns of guys that we haven't got to quite yet. Miami lands 3-star defensive lineman Joshua Horton from Langston Hughes High School in Georgia. Not a highly regarded guy, but the Miami staff likes what they have in Horton.
Yeah, big body type. 6'4", 285 pounds. Again, it needs to look a certain way at the line of scrimmage. Miami hasn't recruited the interior defensive line maybe the way that you would hope here over the past few cycles. Landed just one guy in Ahmad Moten. So I think really they needed to add size, and Joshua Horton checked a lot of those boxes. He's just a massive human being. He reshaped his body as a senior. Looks as good as he ever has physically. I think he put on some really good stuff on tape over the course of a state championship campaign here in Georgia's highest classification. That's a really big deal. And again, it's about adding culture pieces. Langston Hughes, that program is one of the best in the Peach State. A state that's producing NFL talent at as good of a rate as really any state across the country. And I think Josh Horton is someone that, especially late in the process, Georgia started to poke around a little bit. I think others might have too. I believe he got an Alabama offer just before he committed to Miami. There's a lot to like about Josh Horton, and I think Miami found kind of a gem somehow, from the Atlanta area there in the state of Georgia, and they're super excited about him.
Yeah, you touched on his film and maybe some things he's done. I saw a clip of him dunking a basketball, which was really impressive. You always like to see that from your defensive lineman, your defensive tackles. So he's got that athletic ability, just that explosion you see from his legs just on the clip, seeing him being able to do that. So again, Miami's got to be good up front. They've gotten a lot of edge rushers to go inside and getting a guy like Horton, who does have some upside qualities, even if he isn't as highly regarded as some other prospects in this class or on the defensive line. As you mentioned, the winning culture, you can never go wrong with guys that have won state titles.
Yeah, I would encourage anyone who has a social media account to go find that video of Josh Horton dunking recently. You just don't see guys at that size and that weight just kind of explode and erupt like that. Someone tried to jump with him to try to block the dunk as he went up, and just absolutely bodied the guy and really did it. Again, just a really good display of the bottom, his lower half, and that explosiveness that he has. Miami fans should be very encouraged about the future of the defensive line with Josh Horton being a part of it.
Miami wanted to add linebackers to this class, and they added Malik Bryant, a 4-star recruit from Orlando, number 9 linebacker in the country, according to the composite rankings by 24/7 Sports.
Yeah, Malik Bryant. I mean, this is a guy that kind of coast to coast was considered a top prospect in this class. I remember when those 2023 rankings debuted, he was one of the top players in it. He goes from I think he had 15 and a half sacks as a freshman at Orlando Jones, and then goes to IMG Academy as a sophomore and starts for the Ascenders. I mean, that is an incredible feat. I mean, that's a team that's always littered with insane Power Five SEC talent, and for Bryant to go there and contribute and make a high impact as a youngster is a really, really big deal. He finishes his career off at back home at Orlando Jones, where he transitioned more into a traditional linebacker as he was more of a pass rusher when he was a little bit younger. And I think that he's someone that is, again, still kind of learning the position, but shows a lot of promise. You need the linebacker room to look a certain way, and Malik Bryant has the size, 6'2", 230 pounds. He's a thumper. He's a guy that has athleticism, that can move around. And I think if he puts it all together in terms of just kind of growing into a pure linebacker, his upside is as high as anybody else's. So really excited for Miami and this addition. They fought off Florida multiple times, who pushed constantly for Malik Bryant. Alabama was in the mix at one point. Georgia was. All these different national powerhouse programs involved, and Miami ultimately got his commitment, and that's a big deal.
I think the size stands out to me, is what you mentioned there. They've got to get bigger at that position, not just better play, but just kind of getting some more size at that spot. Again, he's going to be, working on that because of his transition with his position a little bit. He's maybe not as natural as some linebackers, but certainly a lot to like about him. His tackling ability needs to definitely be there at the next level as well as it was in high school. So we will see how he fits in, but definitely Miami wants to add bigger linebackers, and he's certainly going to get a chance to perform maybe at that spot defensively, but also I look at a guy that maybe special teams comes in and be able to carve out a role there, because I feel like special teams roles, particularly with linebackers, can be very important. So again, plenty of discussion there on some Miami signees, getting some intriguing guys. Again, high-level guys that are highly regarded recruits, 4- and 5-star guys, but also these 3-star guys that have some flashes, some intrigue to them. I think you saw that with Horton, so we'll see how he develops moving forward. Kind of once again, we've talked about him quite a bit. The big one to watch for today in terms of a possible commitment to Miami, is cornerback Damari Brown, 6'1", 180 at American Heritage, number 22 cornerback. I incorrectly said 33 earlier in the show. Number 22 cornerback, 4-star recruit, 185 nationally, a prospect in the top 200 according to 24/7 Sports composite rankings. A guy that is certainly impressive. I'm going to show you guys some clips there so you get a chance to see him and maybe what he's bringing to the table. We'll talk about him a little bit and continue this discussion with Damari Brown, a potential Miami Hurricane cornerback. Miami needs to improve its cornerback room. You saw him get beat quite a bit over the past season. Tyreek Stevenson going to the NFL. DJ Ivey has graduated. It leaves a big hole at cornerback at a position that they already needed guys to step up. And now 2 guys are moving on. So we will see if we can get if Miami can get some guys there in the back end to improve the play there. Cam Kitchen's a great building block. Touched on James Williams as well in the secondary. Other corners have to step up in year 2. But here's a look at Damari Brown from a 7-on-7 event with the South Florida Express. This was last January. A cold event. As you can see here, you see some guys bundled up. Cormani, if you've seen these clips. But you see it here with Damari. Physical at the line of attack. That's what you want from a guy with good size. You want him to be physical. Once again, a guy with upside. They get his older brother, Devontae Brown, a transfer from UCF. So you got to feel good if you're Miami. You definitely feel better now that you got his brother locked in. So we'll see. Damari's got some other options. 3:15 Eastern time. He'll make his announcement on ESPN Live there. We won't be going live with this show the whole day. Got some other things to do, but I definitely want to do this. Start around 9. You can always watch this thing back. I appreciate you guys as we're kind of following the news moving along here. But just trying to show you guys as much of Damari that I can here. Again, you're looking at his size. That's really what stands out. Stands out with him, and that's what they want at their position, and really at all positions. If you look at these guys that they're bringing in, and that's kind of a totality of the class, if we're looking at it as a whole, they're trying to get bigger. You're seeing the offensive line, the 5 guys that they have in the class, 4 signees with Francis still yet to sign, but all 5 of those guys have size. You're seeing that with Mark Fletcher at running back, 220-pound back, over 220. So you're seeing size there. And I think you like that. Riley Williams, even at tight end, 6'6", 240. So you're getting some size on the offensive side of the ball, which is great. Defensively, we just did a snapshot on Collins. Chiampong there, 6'7", defensive lineman, defensive end prospect with great size there. And also what you're seeing at linebacker. Most of these guys are 6'2", 6'3". You're getting bigger at safety with Caleb Spencer. If he can carve out a role there. Linebacker played some there, but also, again, Miami sees him at safety, a big player there. And they're getting the corners. Devontae Brown, Damari's older brother, is 6'2". He's got good size there. So they're getting size at a lot of spots. And I think Mario Cristobal has said he wants to add size, but you're seeing it kind of play out. And I think you're going to continue to see that play out. And I think it's great to see that. But I think it's great also on both sides of the ball. It's not just on the defensive side where you assume size is going to be, or even on the offensive line. When you hear size, you expect the O-line to be big, but you're seeing it at multiple positions. And I think that's great because they want to have an identity with their team and get bigger. And I think that you've seen that over the years at Miami. They haven't always had great size at certain spots. And certainly when you look at depth, you're looking at those backups, and I think you do see a drop off just from a size standpoint from the guys who start. So I think they're trying to get a bigger team, and you're seeing that with this recruiting class 2023 first full cycle. Last year, Miami had finished with some really high-level guys when Mario Cristobal took over, added some assistant coaches later in the process, but they were able to add some key pieces. And I think you saw that in the recruiting class that kind of showed flashes this past year with Nigel E. Kelly, Jaleel Skinner got some playing time, Cyrus Moss, people waiting on there, but Wesley Basaint stepping up, and then a 3-star guy, from a year ago. And Ez Cooper gets 4 starts down the stretch there at right guard. So Miami's getting a mix of high-level guys from last year. You're seeing some playing time, and obviously Jakari Brown. There's other names as well, guys that stepped up kind of later on in the year. Colby Young, a JUCO transfer from last year, stepped up. So you saw a guy step up. You get this class coming in with some high-level guys. You got a chance to continue to build and certainly move forward from last season's results on the field. Let's get into some more discussion on some of these guys, some guys we haven't talked about quite yet, guys that have signed their letters of intent already. Hockey, lacrosse, whatever it might be, but he's certainly someone that has some upside, certainly somebody that loves the Miami Hurricanes.
Yeah, you mentioned the background. I mean, we're super impressive. I think he was on like some sort of USA junior national team, on skates. Was at one time a Notre Dame lacrosse commit. I think reclassified, kind of went to, a prep school to, be a part of the class of 2023, wanted to play tight end. I mean, really got some intriguing, some big time looks. LSU, people forget the day he committed to Miami, he basically decided he wasn't going to take an unofficial visit to Alabama, where he could have potentially earned an offer from the Crimson Tide. So Jackson Carver shut it down, picked Miami back whenever he committed. So I guess, in June after an official visit weekend. This is someone that, definitely has the athletic upside, those types of things that you're looking for in a tight end. Again, it does have a mean streak. I mean, you watch some of the hockey clips. He's definitely not afraid to hit. If you're a lacrosse player, you better be physical, especially if you're going to play at Notre Dame. So I think in terms of those things, I mean, Jackson Carver has a promising, future, if nothing else, as an inline tight end, as a guy that can definitely help, kind of maintain the edge as a blocker, but also is a threat to catch the ball and can definitely move the way a tight end should be able to move. So, maybe someone that's going to have to come on a little bit from a developmental standpoint. He's going to maybe have to adjust, being that he's kind of fresh to the game of football. But I think if he kind of puts it all together, Jackson Carver might have the highest upside of potentially any of these tight ends that Miami's bringing in. So a lot to be excited about with him.
Yeah, and that's what you like is upside of a guy that's not highly regarded, 3-star recruit, number 30 in the country, according to the composite rankings by 24/7 Sports. But again, you touched on some upside stuff, and that's certainly what Miami likes as a staff. They like this background, also the potential to get better, and it will be up to Jackson, how quickly he can acclimate. And sometimes when guys get into an environment at the college level, they can really accelerate their growth process, really focusing on football, having to be good, having to be competitive, whether it's other tight ends or defensive players. He's certainly going to get a taste of what it takes at the next level. So Jackson's a guy that has a good mentality. Like I mentioned, he loves Miami. He's been really staying in tune to what's going on with the Hurricanes, their program, the recruiting class. He definitely seems excited about this next step. And again, someone to watch.
I think he's someone that's going to have no trouble throwing on, 15, 20 pounds once he gets inside Miami's strength and conditioning program. I can see him being a physical specimen here in a few years down the line. A lot to be excited about. And you mentioned a lot of those things that, he's kind of been an advocate for the program. He's been the guy that, kind of, super vocal, all those things. I think my favorite thing that Jackson Carver has done so far, though, is when Coach Cristobal and Coach Field have gone up to visit him at his home here over the last few weeks. You just see the fields of just white, cloudy snow. Jackson Carver just standing outside, weathering all that in just basketball shorts and a T-shirt. So he's definitely built different, not one of the traditional South Florida kids. I know Boston College, I believe, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, is one of Miami's every year opponents from this point on. I could definitely see him being one of those guys that in late October, early November, Miami's playing in Chestnut Hill and Jackson Carver walks out of the tunnel with no shirt on, just trying to just kind of wearing all the fringe weather up there. I mean, I'm really excited about his future. And I think if he puts it all together, man, I think he's going to be a great one here.
So as we were going through that discussion, it did become official. Emory Williams, quarterback, 3-star quarterback out of Milton, Florida in the Panhandle, has signed his letter of intent with Miami. That is official. Miami lands quarterback Emory Williams out of Milton, Florida. And speaking to people who watched him this past summer at the Elite 11 finals, there's a lot to like about him. 6'4", 190. He's a guy with confidence. Comes with that positive vibe. He's just somebody that seems to have a good upside as a 3-star recruit. Just someone to watch for moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is someone that Miami and this staff really liked when they evaluated him in person. He threw for them over the summer, kind of a private workout there on Green Tree or just around the facility. And, again, he didn't have a ton of offers at that time. There weren't a lot of people that knew about Emory Williams, but I think Miami trusted their evaluation there. And, just kind of speaking to people around the program, even about Emory Williams, this is someone that they're kind of a believer in. And, this is year one really of the recruiting cycle in terms of them having a full class to kind of collect. And this is an arm that, they're kind of buying stock in. They're buying long-term stock in. And I mean, you look at the stats, over 4,000 yards, 37 touchdowns to 7 interceptions over the course of his junior and senior season. That's while completing over 62% of his passes over that time. I mean, this is a developmental arm. This is a guy they're going to have to bring in, obviously, depending on how the quarterback situation goes. I don't think Emory Williams is anyone that Miami is going to expect to throw out there anytime soon. But if we're looking forward, projecting 2-3 years down the line, I think Emory Williams could potentially be a guy that surprises some people.
One of these things about this sleeper guy, there were a lot of programs that would like to have had him, and Emory stayed true to his commitment, so he believes in this program, this coaching staff. I know the other recruits are excited about him as well. He just kind of, once again, has this positive vibe about him. And, slotting into the quarterback room at Miami, he doesn't have to step in right away and make a lot of plays. He just has to concentrate on development. And again, people that have seen him play really believe in his upside and believe there's more to come with Emory.
Yeah, and I think you dive a little bit deeper into his background, has some promising traits. I mean, he has a track and field background. He was a district qualifier in the 110-meter and the 300-meter hurdles as a sophomore. So this is someone that doesn't, I think now, especially when we're looking at football players, especially at the quarterback position, you're looking for multi-sport athletes. I think that's something that these scouts consider when they're evaluating these types of guys. And I think Emory does check some of those boxes in terms of having other stuff, verified athleticism, away from the football field.
One of the big things with a quarterback, in addition to all the physical tools, is just the approach to the game, how he handles a lot of situations. A quarterback is just a different position. Everybody knows that. That'll be something to watch for moving forward, of how he handles everything, getting into that college environment. Will his leadership traits show when he arrives on campus?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot to be excited about with Emory Williams. You needed to kind of hit at quarterback, obviously maybe rolling the dice in terms of the big picture of maybe not getting that 5-star arm or, that, high level, highly touted, arm or whatever it is. But Emory Williams is someone, again, that I think people in Coral Gables are believers in. And this is one of those instances where they're trusting their eyes and they're rolling the dice here. So we'll definitely see how it pans out in the years to come.
So just checking in again, adding the latest signee, Emory Williams, to the board there. That gives Miami 20 signees in this class officially, just with this recruiting class. And that leaves 4 other guys that have committed but haven't signed yet. We've talked about Cormani McClain, number 2 cornerback, not going to sign today, 5-star player. Also 5-star offensive tackle, number 1 offensive tackle in the country, Francis Mauigoa, has not signed officially as I'm speaking. Maybe that changes. Not supposed to believe anything's going on there. And then also the other 2 guys are from Dillard High School. Defensive back Antoine Jackson, 4-star recruit, listed as a safety, number 16 safety in the country, reclassified, really intriguing prospect in that sense. I think he can also play corner. That's something to watch for there, listed as a safety. And then also Christopher Johnson, running back, Dillard High School, 5'11", 178. 4-star recruit, number 18 running back in the country. Those are the 4 guys that we are still waiting on who have verbally committed to Miami, but today, again, signed the letter of intent, which binds the player and the university to one another. So we will see how that goes. Stay tuned with that. Again, we're still waiting on Damari Brown's announcement later on this afternoon. They're waiting to see there. And just kind of checking in on some chat stuff here. Appreciate everybody here. Other things going on. I've not been able to check on what's been going on with those other guys, as I've mentioned. But Edwin Joseph was a target. Conrad Hussey going into the day. Stan Quan Clark. Those were 3 guys in addition to Brown. Hakeem Williams. Some people were curious about him. Highly regarded wide receiver that I really like. But he did stick with Florida State. Signed as a letter of intent there. Sharif Denson, cornerback, stayed with Florida. And then, as I mentioned, the other news from yesterday, Reed McKeska, tight end. Miami couldn't take 3. Essentially, that's a lot of tight ends to take in the class. He ends up going to South Carolina. So those are the ones to watch for. I still think Miami's going to be in play with transfers after signing day. 2 have already said yes. I think more are still to come in the near future. But also, I'm very curious to see how this transfer portal window opens up after the bowl game. And the way it works, we talked so much about earlier this month with the transfer portal window opening, but it's a 45-day window that closes in mid-January. So still plenty of time after the bowl games. And I think more guys will enter. I think Miami will be in play for them as well. Great to have high school talent. Got to add some veterans too. I think this roster is not where it needs to be. They've got to add more to it. So we'll see. But certainly this is a great starting point from a talent standpoint at the high school level today. Just kind of let's do a quick update on the team rankings. You can see it live here. Once again, this is the 24 Sports Composite team rankings. Again, Miami's entered the day at number 3. It stays at number 3 as they have not officially dropped anyone. Again, it includes signees and verbal commits. Miami's still at number 3, the top class in the ACC. Let's look at some ACC rankings, actually. We've been looking so much at the top 10 nationally, but let's look at the ACC, kind of see where this shakes out in terms of the other teams in the conference with their recruiting classes. Miami number 1, Clemson number 2, Florida State 3, North Carolina 4, Louisville rounds out the top 5 at number 5. So there's some other things going on there. You like that as well as some short-term stuff. You're looking for more talent in the conference. Miami's not led the conference in a while. I don't know the last time. I've not went back and checked, but certainly Clemson has been up there. Florida State's had some good recruiting classes. North Carolina recently. So it's good to see Miami in there. And the way it shakes out, it definitely looks like Miami's going to hold on to that. It'd be a big surprise if Miami dropped, but we will see. It's not official until signing day. So news kind of coming in with Antoine Jackson, the East Carolina stuff. We will see how that goes. He did take a late visit. So we will see how things go. So all things going on. Richie jumping in with the Kane Mutiny book notice from Bruce Feldman. I can say I have one, and I have one signed from Bruce. Been a big fan. So definitely going on here Appreciate everybody jumping in on the chat. Once again, a lot of stuff going on. I'm just kind of getting through these interviews. I'm really looking forward to, kind of making things official for you guys with Francis. There's some offensive line breakdown stuff I want to get into, some really insightful stuff there from a special guest that I'm excited about. But I want to wait till it's official with Francis and see how things go there. Just like I had I've talked about the 5-star breakdown with David Lake with InsideTheU.com, also through the Smoke podcast. Check that out. But it's just some real good analytic stuff and kind of breaking down kind of the keys to 5-star talent. We discussed that a little bit earlier in the show in terms of guys at Miami, the 5 stars there. So Miami's still just kind of checking the updates. Once again, kind of periodically checking the updates. There is a VIP article. I want to refer you guys back to that. A VIP article on InsideTheU.com about Cormani McClain. Definitely check that out. Gabby Arudia covers recruiting for us and 24/7 Sports. Definitely check that out. I'm not going to reveal what exactly is said in his article because of VIP. This would be a great day to sign up for a VIP subscription to the website. Get plenty of information there. The off season is going to continue to be busy. We'll continue to provide you guys updates as they come along. But definitely check that out and find out what's going on with Cormani. I highly recommend that. As once again, still waiting on some other guys officially to see what they do, as well as the uncommitted guys, waiting to see what they do and if Miami's going to be able to flip anyone today. So it's been a good week. It's been a good month, excellent month for Miami on the recruiting standpoint. I know everybody wants this day to be a big one, but the fact that Miami got these guys, in particular with Samson Oak Lola recently, getting him on board. Mark Fletcher, a huge get as well. So just getting these guys on board, making Reuben Bain official. I know, those are high names. I was talking with Gabby and one of the things to just kind of sum up this class, some of these high regarded guys, when you go to the 24/7 Sports, the commit list, when you go to it, when you look at it, you're trying to find certain names and you see a guy like Collins Chiapong, for example, you have to scroll all the way down, kind of midway through. He's a highly regarded guy, top 160 in the country, but he's only like Miami's 10th guy or whatever. So there's just a lot of names. Mark Fletcher is down the list, but he's certainly a highly regarded guy. So it just kind of shows the depth and the overall talent with some of these guys that Miami's been able to get on board. And it's good to see. It's just not a few of these guys. You're getting a good chunk on both sides of the ball, a lot of positions, and that's what we've been discussing all morning long with this recruiting class. Let's get to some other names that we've not got to yet. Miami lands an offensive lineman with a very intriguing background in Frankie Tenelau, originally from Australia, moved to California before finally settling at Miami at LaSalle High School for his senior year. 6'5", 315, plenty of size, not a highly regarded guy, but someone certainly to pay attention to as he continues to get experience playing the game of football.
Yeah, I think that this is a Mario Cristobal, Alex Mirabal special. Offered him over the summer after getting him on campus for an unofficial visit. Really was just a virtual unknown. No one knew anything about this guy. I mean, when I met him, he had like an old 24/7 profile from a different school in California, had been in Australia for a year. It was an interesting one, but I think that there are other Power 5 programs that ended up coming along here, Chris. I mean, Auburn, Louisville, Mississippi State, Missouri, Oregon, Penn State, like all these people ended up offering once his senior film started to circulate. And at that point, Miami had done their job in terms of securing Tenelau. Has more of a rugby background, hasn't played a ton of organized football, settled in at the tackle spot for LaSalle, probably projects more as a guard. But again, man, I mean, you talk about the size and the mass, 6'5", 315, and again, kind of a self-starter, a kid that understands that he is kind of still in the process of even just learning the position. And I think something that encouraged a lot of people around Frankie Tenelau and the Miami program is that he consistently got better over the course of the year. His conditioning improved, his technique improved, his overall understanding and feel for the position improved. And I know that they believe that down the line, Frankie Tenelau is going to be someone that gets into games and contributes for them. And I think that this is someone that they're super excited about and they're very happy to be bringing along in this class.
When we saw him over the summer, it definitely stood out to me with his size because, again, he's one of these guys that, Frankie's definitely one of these guys that recruiting fans of the game really likes to follow because he was a hidden gem in a sense. You don't see that nowadays with these guys really coming out of nowhere and becoming intriguing prospects. But when we saw him this summer, the size, the personality stood out definitely. And then we got a chance to see him at his first scrimmage. And as you mentioned, he did improve as the season went along. A competitive schedule there at LaSalle, playing some tough opponents, and that's what you want to see from guys. You want to see the consistent improvement over the years, and that gives you intrigue, or it gives you confidence that maybe he can continue to get better as he moves forward with his college career.
Yeah, Chris, you mentioned just the hidden gem stuff. I remember, I think it was the first day of May or something like that. Maybe it was March. I know a recruiting period had just opened up where they could have kids on campus. Frankie Tinnelau was the first one through the door. They offer him. I don't live far from campus. I start messaging the kid, hey, like, where can I find you? Are you close by? Like, I need to just be able to meet you or whatever. Like, I need to. So I remember meeting him outside of All Canes right there on campus, basically on campus, and just being kind of mesmerized by the size and just his whole deal. That's the first time I heard his story about the Australia and all these different things. And I mean, I'm a Frankie Tinnelau fan. I'm rooting him on for his career. And, I do think he has an awesome story. And I hope that, over the course of his Miami career, as he improves and as he becomes a factor for these guys, that he gets to tell it on a national scale.
Miami lands three-star linebacker Marcellus Pulliam out of a good program in Sandy Creek in Georgia. Certainly Miami wants to improve the linebacker room. 6'3", 215 pounds.
Yeah, Chris, you mentioned a good program. I mean, we won a state title in Georgia. Miami finding a few of those state champs here in this class of 2023. Marcellus Pulliam, definitely one of them. And again, we talk about the size at linebacker and all those different things, the way that Miami's approached it this recruiting cycle. 6'3", 215 pounds. And a guy that is athletic, that is going to have to continue to develop maybe the floor of the linebacker room. But again, that's a high floor because, again, you talk about the size and the range that he has. He's someone that Auburn wanted, that Louisville wanted, Georgia Tech would have liked to keep home. Miami was kind of able to sneak in the back door in the final minutes of that recruitment and come out on top for Marcellus Pulliam. And I know people around the building are really high on him. They kind of sat down, watched his film one more time before moving forward there, and decided as a staff that this is someone that we're going to roll the dice on. It's a big linebacker class, Chris. So when you look at the way that the roster is structured physically, there's just not a lot of these 6'2" plus 215 plus guys walking around there. So I think Miami's throwing a bunch of at high upside athletic bodies at this room, and I think they're hoping that a few of them end up sticking. And I know that Pulliam has a few guys around the program that are definitely advocates for him.
That's what stands out to me. A lot of this talk about this recruiting class with this coaching staff, identifying needs, feeling like they know what they want to get, and then going out and executing. Again, you're getting quantity at the linebacker spot. Marcellus feels that. They don't look at their other linebackers that they had on board and figure like, okay, that's good enough. No, they add in Pulliam here, and he's certainly a guy, once again, with some upside. That's what you always like with guys that maybe aren't as highly regarded as other recruits, but you want to be able to see something positive, some positive traits that if it works out, if he's essentially one of these diamonds in the rough type of overlooked guys, even though, as you mentioned, other top programs did want him, that you still like those positive qualities. Again, his height speed combination, in addition to coming from that winning attitude, which I can't speak enough about, that can certainly be a positive, not just for a position group, but for the unit and for the whole team in general as you can construct this roster. So while we were talking there, officially Antoine Jackson has signed with the Miami Hurricanes. The Miami does beat out ECU. I know there was some confusion, or was he going to flip? Again, one of these uncommitted or unsigned guys that just finally made it official, and he has signed with the Miami Hurricanes, which is always good to see. Again, you don't want to lose anybody today, and Miami hangs on to Antoine Jackson. Antoine Jackson, a 4-star defensive back out of Dillard High School, made the decision to fast forward his college career, reclassify, and he's in this class for the Miami Hurricanes.
Yeah, Chris, originally a class of 2024 prospect, made the move to the class of 2023, just due to, his academic situation. He was able to expedite that process. It's not because he's older, really just wanted to get into the college system, and he believes that he can come into Miami and eventually compete for a job. And really, it's about getting into that strength and conditioning department and getting bigger and faster and stronger and all those things. Just 16 years old, so really still a pup. He was considered, one of the top players in the class of 2024 before making the move. And I think that that's still the appropriate timeline for him. And just because he is going to be at Miami a year earlier doesn't mean that he's necessarily going to be on the field a year earlier. I think the plan is to, bring him along. Obviously, there are a lot of people in Coral Gables extremely high on his skill set. I think they're going to start him off as a cornerback. I think that there's some belief that he could end up playing safety for him, but regardless, definitely a high-level talent, one of the best defensive backs in South Florida. And I think that, once he kind of comes of age, where he turns 17, gets closer to that 18-year-old mark, he's going to have, by the time he's 18, he's going to be in college, 2 full seasons. I mean, I think that this is a kid that is, once he gets to that point where he's physically and mentally ready to be a part of this Miami Hurricanes football team in terms of being a contributor, he can potentially be, we could be looking back to this moment and him reclassifying and thinking about how Miami was able to dodge Georgia, who he was once committed to before he flipped to Miami in the summer, but then how they were able to dodge Alabama and Florida and Ohio State and all these other schools who might have eventually come after him as a class of 2024 prospect by getting him in school a year earlier.
What stands out to me in watching him, in addition to that unique backstory with him and his maturity to do what he wants to do right now at this age, is his cover ability, his cover skills. He's got good speed, good strength there for a cornerback. He's guarded a lot of top guys in South Florida. He has good experience doing that. And again, I think he's got a bright future, but even right now, just good speed and good cover ability. And you like that in a cornerback, and you can never have enough good cornerbacks. And to be able to get Jackson, who, as you mentioned, could move to safety if they need him to, but if he develops like that, but certainly a guy that can cover, and certainly one to like in this recruiting class.
Yeah, I'm watching him at Legends Camp over the summer. I mean, we walked away from that experience feeling like Antoine Jackson was probably the best cornerback there. I thought he was physical. Again, you see his stature, 6 foot. He's 6 foot, 170 pounds, could be maybe a little bit bigger by now. But he has all those things. I mean, he does have those natural cover skills. He can run with guys. He's not a cornerback because he can't make plays. Like, he's a guy that flipped over to the wide receiver position here during his senior year at Dillard, and started playing some wide receiver and definitely made some plays happen in important games down the stretch. So this is a guy that is, just a football player. And again, Miami, down the line, kind of projecting to the future, are really excited about what they have with him.
Dillard speedster at running back Christopher Johnson signs with the Miami Hurricanes. A lot of speed, a lot of reasons to be excited about this dynamic playmaker.
Yeah, Chris, you nailed it. Elite speed, 10.45 in the 100-meter, 20.78 in the 200-meter as a junior. So that was good enough to take home gold in Florida's 3A state track meet. And I mean, Chris Johnson is just really just absolutely flies. At one point was committed to Rutgers and then posted some of those speed times, and that had a bunch of big-time programs calling. You go through his timeline, you'll see that Georgia and Oklahoma and Michigan and Texas A&M, Alabama, all those schools came knocking for Christopher Johnson once they realized what that top-end speed looked like. Miami kind of, really grinding out the recruiting process, came out with a late win here in December, closer to the early signing day, obviously just landed his signature. And this is just a massive win for Miami. Again, when you're talking about adding that top end speed, you can't just find that just anywhere. I mean, this is as elite as it comes from a speed standpoint. So, this is a guy that, maybe not the purest running back at this stage of the process. I think he may be better served currently as more of a gadget guy, just kind of find a way to get him the ball in space. But man, when this guy has green grass in front of him, I don't think that there's anybody in the country that's going to catch him. So really exciting playmaker and, a high upside running back prospect.
You touch on his speed. There's a lot to be excited about that because, like you said, there's a lot of ways you can use them, and there's a lot of chance for development. And sometimes, especially with speed, it's hard to get better at that. You either have it or you don't. Maybe
Right.
incrementally you get better, but he's bringing a lot to the table. 5'11", 178 pounds is what he's listed at. 4-star recruit, top 20 running back in the country in that composite rankings. So again, Chris Johnson was a guy that we both had a chance to see at the Legends Camp over the summer, get a chance to see him work, go through a lot of drills, and you see the quickness, in and out of breaks. And I really enjoyed watching Kevin Smith, running backs coach, kind of coach him up, kind of give him some extra pointers. But it was just fun seeing him go through all those different drills. The speed, even though it wasn't a game, you could see it right there just through those drills, just his quickness and his body movements. His agility was there as well, which is always big for a guy that has speed.
Yeah, home run hitter. I mean, that's really what the Chris Johnson was, Chris. Like you mentioned, we saw him at that Legends Camp. I mean, I think earlier that day, or maybe it was the week before, I watched him work out, one-on-one with Kevin Smith. Also watched him, kind of fielding some punts. I think this is someone that can get involved in the return game for Miami. Again, if he finds a crease, if he finds that gap, I mean, he just goes, man. You can't teach that. You said that at the beginning of your point, Chris. This is an innate trait. This is something you can't teach 10-4-5. You're born with it. You naturally have it. And again, I think one of the key things that Miami was looking to add to in terms of their roster was that top end speed. I felt like they were missing that at a couple different points on their roster. And Chris Johnson is someone that just brings an absolute ton of it, and again can be a game changer in in multiple ways. So I know that people in Coral Gables are super excited about him. They really chipped away. They really fought through that recruitment, and landing his signature here on Wednesday is a huge deal.
And the way he fits into the Miami roster, certainly a position of need. After a couple guys hit the transfer portal, he enters in 3 other guys on the roster at the current time. So that's certainly an important thing. And, he will find himself a role if he can get in there and understand the offense. But I definitely think he can make an immediate impact. Like you mentioned, maybe a guy on special teams, whether it's in the return game or even some coverage stuff because of his speed. So definitely someone to watch for in his first year at Miami. So with Jackson and Johnson officially on board, Miami has 22 of its 24 players officially signed. The only 2 left, 5-star cornerback Cormani McLean and 5-star offensive tackle Francis Mauigoa. We know what's going on with McLean. We will see what's going on with Francis. Once again, not expect anything at this time to be anything going on wrong. Francis has been locked in with Miami since the summer. So we will see. Again, 5-star talent. So Miami's got all these guys on board. I do want to shout out the chat. I saw Drew jump in here, and he's talking about Damari Brown. So he's definitely saying he's coming. How about W's in the chat if you think Damari Brown is coming to the Miami Hurricanes at 3:15 when he officially announces his commitment live on ESPN. W's in the chat. We definitely got to hit that up. Once again, we've gotten through most of these players today. I've kind of lost track a little bit, keeping track in my head in terms of showing you guys interviews with all of these guys that Miami has been able to sign. There's a couple more that I still want to get to. Once again, Miami, number 3 ranked class in the country. They've addressed a lot of needs with this class. And again, they continue to push forward to try to add more players, more talent. I like that. They're not settling for what they have. Just need to ink this thing up. Once again, we're just sitting here a little after 11 a.m. Eastern time live with this signing day show. Mario Cristobal press conference 4 o'clock. He'll address everything there. So we will see. I definitely appreciate everybody. You guys are spamming the chats. I like that. Hitting up on all those W's and no L's. So we don't want to see any L's with Damari Brown. You got to get the win there and beat out some big time schools for him. Apologize for that. So anyways, a long day the last few days, but we are definitely gearing up. This is the first live show that I've done. I've been wanting to do this for quite a while. This is a good starting point. I'm excited about this. I definitely want to build this thing out moving forward, get some even more better content for you guys with the next one. Maybe we'll do another one in February. Not expect anything big, but certainly more information will always be on the channel, more videos, more insight on the website and all kinds of stuff. So shout out David. Appreciate you for being on here. Congrats on sounding coverage. Amazing. Thank you. Thanks for your support. Everybody in here is seeing so many familiar names, but also a lot of new names. So if you're new to the channel, I appreciate you. Again, we're trying to get more subscribers to the channel. We got to hit 20K, but the only way we can do that is spreading the word, but I've got to do my part and provide content for you guys that you want to see. So definitely want to do that. We will see how things go moving forward. I want to get into some other guys. You know what? There's a couple other guys that that I've not got to. But you know what? What I want to do is I want to do kind of go back a little bit on Emory Williams, quarterback. Some people are interested in him and his progress. I'm just going to play an interview that I had over the summer after Emory played at the Elite 11. Maybe you guys have seen it on the channel, but I kind of just want to go back to that. Maybe you lost track of what was going on in the summer, but just definitely want to do that. Kind of show you guys that again, just kind of a reminder of what Emory's bringing to the table. Not a lot of people had a chance to see him out in Milton, Florida in the Panhandle. Not a great program, 3-7 this past season, but Emory's thrown for over 2,000 yards each of the last 2 seasons. We talked about him, Gabby and I did, but I just want to kind of provide a little bit more context on him and kind of how he's doing and maybe how he did over the summer, because I think you did hear positive things about Emory over the summer with what he did at the Elite 11. So I'll play that. It's going to go for a couple minutes. I didn't chop it up, but the Elite 11 process is discussed there. So with Chris Singletary with 24/7 Sports. So that's where that comes from. What's going on, everybody? Really special guest today. It's Chris Singletary, national recruiting analyst for 24/7 Sports. He was there at the Elite 11 to watch Emory Williams, Miami commit. We'll talk about that. But what's going on, Chris?
How you doing? I appreciate you having me.
Yeah,
fellow Big Ten guy on the line with me. So this is kind of cool.
Yeah, it was fun chatting a little bit. Yeah, Chris, and obviously you're doing great work at 24/7. They brought you on board. You know, all the experience you have, not just as a player, but being a recruiting coordinator at the highest level in college football. I want to talk about Emory, how he looked at the event, but can you lay out what the Elite 11 is for people that don't know, and how did Emory get that invite? How did he become a participant in the event there? But we'll certainly break down his game and how he looked.
So the Elite 11 is a 2.5, 3-day event where they take the top quarterbacks from the regionals that participates in different regional combines, whether it's in Florida, Tennessee, Ohio. And so the guys with the highest rating that wins those regionals now get invited to the Elite 11 finals. And that's how Emory became one of the invites. And it culminates with a lot of things. Of course, the on the field work, but they're doing a lot of things off the field. Learning how to watch film, learning how to dissect different defenses, understanding different route concepts, doing some life skill stuff, talking about how to handle social media and be able to control that narrative for you as you move forward, especially in the world of NIL. How do you address that to be able to benefit you and your brand? From the football standpoint, the first day those guys got there, they checked in, went through some orientation type things, and then they hit the field for like a half a workout. And then that workout, they did some things where they did throwing off platform, rolling out in the red zone, being able to complete balls on air. Then they did some intermediate things where they talked about and showed whereas if they were facing the blitz and the pressure was coming in, now you're throwing off platform, off your back foot, things of that nature. And then they did some of the long throws, some of your deep bigs, deep comebacks, post corners, and corner routes. And so that was day one. Day two, each guy had one rep, and it was started by the counselors, and they went through, and it was kind of like a true pro day. You started off at the -5, and you're working your way, driving your team down the field. So you're doing all the different throws, whether it's the swing out of the backfield, and we call it the black zone in football when you're in the negative. That's obviously the red zone. Some schools call it the goal zone when they're going down to score. So you're working your way from there, and then you get to the middle of the field, and now you're doing some different route concepts, some slants, some back shoulders, things like that. And then as you cross the 50, now you're trying to hit your home run shots, deep balls up the sideline, deep balls up the seams, things like that. And then you're getting the red zone, and now you're facing obviously a shorter field. Teams 9 times out of 10 like to bring pressure, and now the ball's coming out even faster. So each guy had their one rep at the pro day workout. And then on the last day, which was yesterday, they had stationary targets. So guys just being able to throw on air, hit their targets at different depths, different routes, different angles. And then the 7-on-7, where they had receivers that they had brought in, and they worked with them for 2 days, try to get a little bit of continuity. But then the 7-on-7, where they were going off the card, looking at the routes, and then they had obviously defensive players out there some guys that obviously are getting recruited. So now you're going against live bodies, and now it's a faster paced deal. It's more like real football. But even in that setting, some guys play more 7-on-7 than others, depending on what state they're in, where they're from, and just, how their high school team is set up, and then what resources they may have around them. So hopefully that wasn't too long of an answer.
No, I think it's great. And I think, again, this is something people have heard about for years. The Elite 11 has been around for a long time. It's just the extensive work that you're talking about. Certainly, guys are getting a lot of different kinds of work and a lot of different people there to watch them and help them out. With Emory, and again, there's a lot to break down with his game. I guess just overall takeaways from it, from watching him, just your general thoughts on him now that you've seen him out there.
First of all, I think just as a person, he's one of those guys you can't help but like. I mean, he exudes confidence. He has that intangible where you can see guys are going to want to play for him. He's a guy that's about lifting guys up, just watching him talk, watching him with the rest of the quarterbacks throughout the 3 days. You could tell that he's an intelligent guy. So him being able to take coaching and being able to get it fit to what he can do from a skill set standpoint, and then implement it into his game and being able to take it to the field. He has that capacity. When you first see him, at check-in, I call him two halves. So, from the waist up, you look at him, he's like, man, this guy looks young. Like, has he even hit puberty? So you still see a great frame in the upper body, a lot of room to grow from a physical standpoint within the chest and shoulders. But then you look at it from the waist down, and it's like a different person, well-defined, muscular, calves, hamstrings, quads, has a strong power base to be able to generate RPMs on the ball and velocity to make throws. So just from the physical standpoint, he checks the box, and also having the ability to still have some long-term potential from a growth standpoint. As I've got in there and got a chance to watch him move around and throw the ball, was surprised in terms of just obviously never seen him in person. Really liked how the ball came out of his hands. And the other part I meant to say is he's a lot bigger than you would think. He's not a little man. He has really good size. I want to say, I'm 6'2" and change. He's probably 6'3", 6'2 and a half, 6'3". So he has that prototype size that you want from a guy that could be able to throw it from the pocket and not have to get in the passing lanes. He's tall enough and long enough to make throws. But really liked his mechanics. Him having to stay consistent with those are going to be things that he has to continue to work on. Pretty good arm, knows where to go with the ball. I think he finished second in the accuracy competition. But the moment was not too big for him at all. And I think he's a guy that has a lot of upside and a lot of long-term potential to his development.
Let's stay with his arm. You touched on his mechanics. Let's kind of break it down in two things when it comes to the arm, the ability to make certain throws, but touch on the accuracy, but also arm strength. Certainly both things are important. Kind of break down what he's bringing to the table mechanically in terms of his arm, but also, accuracy and arm strength with what his passing ability overall.
I think when you look at it from a power-based standpoint, that's what I always call the lower body. He has the ability from there and the build to be able to generate power. Whether he's throwing off platform in the pocket, and especially off platform on the rollout, because of his build and strength, he's got enough juice from the body, lower body, that he can have that be able to translate to his arm strength. He has an above average arm, so he can make all the throws. The thing with quarterbacks is, even though you might have an elite arm, at the end of the day, it's still about timing. Playing with Tom Brady per se in college, he wasn't a guy that had the strongest arm, or playing with Brian Griese, who played in the NFL. They didn't have like elite level arms, but they had enough arm strength. But more importantly, they knew how to get the ball out, and they knew when to get the ball out. So I think that's going to be something for Emory as he plays more, just understanding, one, who you're playing with, and knowing that timing of getting the ball out. From a mechanic standpoint, he has a pretty solid release. It's just to be a matter of him continually to refine it. You don't want it to get long, and being able to just get the ball out. But he's nice, smooth release. He does not have a hitch in it. It's not one of those elongated releases where you're like, man, you can see long-term how that's going to have to be an issue. And at this point in the age, if you're long with it, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be hard to fix, because now you have to strip that guy down back to the basics to build him back up to try to even get the ball out quicker and probably, compact that release. But from a mechanic standpoint, he's pretty sound. Obviously he needs reps and work, but he's right where he needs to be, and he has more than what it takes to be a guy to be a really good player and on the ACC level and the Power 5 level.
Was there a moment that stands out to you, either a drill, interaction, or even just one play that stood out to you, like kind of your biggest thing where you saw out of him at the event? Was there anything like that, Chris?
When you meet him, it's like, okay. And then the more you talk to him, you're like, yeah, he's a nice guy, but he has some oomph to him. He has a lot of competitiveness in him, and he has some internal fire. And then they were doing kind of routes on air. He threw a deep comeback to the far hash, and I was like, okay, when you see something like that, that's probably one of the harder throws you have to make in football. And that shows arm talent, that shows understanding how to use your body to generate the power to throw the ball, because it's not just all arm. And that, when he was able to do that, I was like, okay, this guy has what it takes to be able to play and compete on this level.
From my perspective, kind of evaluating quarterbacks and kind of just watching them, there's just so much that goes into evaluating a quarterback. Not, we touched on the arm strength or accuracy or those kinds of things, Chris. And I know you're touching on it, but just the intangibles, the work ethic, you touched about a fire. There's, to me, the leadership ability, all those things from a quarterback standpoint are so important in their development. And you touched on it, but just, is there any of those things that stood out to the leadership? It just wasn't that kind of event, but the interactions that you're talking about, and also, being at the college level yourself as a player and also on staff, how much are you paying attention to those things, or maybe Emory or all the other quarterbacks? How much are you paying attention to all those
you have to pay attention, because that guy is an extension of the offensive coordinator, the head coach, on the field, in the locker room, summer conditioning, when the coaches aren't around you doing 7-on-7, doing drills. And when you watch it, you watch how he was interacting with the other guys, you watch how he was cheering other guys on. For me, he has that personality where guys will gravitate towards him. And you can tell how he was talking to the coaches and the feedback that he was getting. He's coachable. And so those two things at that position is huge, because as we know, only one guy can play at a time. And so those were things that showed to me that, he'll definitely be fine once he hit the collegiate level.
So current rankings, fans are always interested in where he's at, or all guys. He goes into the event 46 in the quarterback rankings, 24/7 Sports composite ranking, 63rd by 24/7. Do you foresee a ratings jump for him whenever the next ratings comes out? Where do you kind of view him now that you've seen him after this week? Just where do you kind of view him maybe moving forward in the ranking standpoint?
He's a guy that's definitely going to be in the conversation to have a bump. After seeing him live, and you couple that with the film, and then I know other evaluations that some of our guys have had a chance to see, he's definitely going to be in a guy that we would have conversations about to see, if he jumps, and if so, how far. But he definitely, he did his part. I can say that. He showed very well.
Yeah, and you did your part today, providing great knowledge. So I want to appreciate you taking the time. Time is valuable. It's nice chatting with you, and hopefully we'll talk soon.
All right, appreciate you having me.
So again, just kind of providing some insight from back in the summer. Maybe you guys have already watched that video with Chris, and shout out to people that have watched that. But a few updates. I want to give a few updates real quick here. And just real quick, kind of my setup here, what I've been doing in addition to this, the live stream, while this is going on. I'm constantly checking my phone, constantly checking the website. I'm updating videos to the InsideTheU website. Some videos that you guys are seeing here, that's constantly going on. And so yeah, stay in tune to that. Also, I got my my ITU Games glass here with my drinking the orange Gatorade. So just kind of the setup here, and my shirt, the Believe the Hype. I thought it'd be great for signing day. So yeah, just a little bit of housekeeping there. A couple updates. People have asked Francis Mauigoa, why has he not signed yet? Look, it was posted, David Lake kind of posted on our website, but it's believed he's back home in American Samoa's. The time zone is a thing there. They are 6 hours behind, so it's only 5 in the morning there. Again, all systems go as far as we know. with Francis. So it's just early in the morning there. So look for that in maybe a few hours here on the Eastern time zone once he officially signs. But again, still expected to do that. I saw people in the chat brought up a name. It's on our message boards as well. People are curious about Jaden Bonsu. Just kind of recap with Jaden Bonsu. He was a name I heard recently that maybe there's some possibilities there. Once again, Ohio State commit, 4-star safety out of St. Peter's Prep in New Jersey. Number 23 safety according to the composite rankings by 24/7 Sports. And I'm sure if you guys paid attention to Miami recruiting over the summer, you remember his name. He took an official visit to Miami in June. It looked like it was trending towards Bonsu picking the Hurricanes. However, that did not happen. And then in August, he made the commitment to Ohio State. It's really been kind of quiet from a perspective of getting things out there, information on him until recently. And again, his name has popped up. He has not signed officially at this moment. So we will see if anything changes with Bonsu, a physical safety, 6'1", 210. Once again, somebody Miami really wanted over the summer. It just didn't work out. But once again, kind of hearing that there's a possibility. If you're looking for possibilities today, that's maybe one to keep an eye on. I know, times have changed with the early signing period and just information getting out there. Certainly for people that have covered recruiting a long time, followed it. You certainly remember the days of calling off work and kind of being around a computer all day long, kind of my signing day memories of covering it. I remember we'd have to call the schools, each high school. We'd be on the phones all day long calling to see if the fax was sent over to Miami, then we'd report it. That was one way that we did it. We also used to be at Miami, and we literally were close to the fax machine as they came in and got updates there, or we just hung out at UM all day long waiting for it to be official. Again, this is pre-Twitter, kind of pre-information getting out there. Signing days have changed. I'm doing this. This is new. I used to, there's been times I've been at 3 or 4 signees throughout the day, driving around to ceremonies. That's when you would find out for sure if a kid was going to pick a certain school. Information gets out differently now, but I'm sure many of you have signing day memories. You've watched shows, you've watched commitments, people being really surprised, family members disappointed in the player's decision. All kinds of stuff go on signing day, and certainly a lot of memories, kind of just these last moments leading into signing day, making that official signing. Coaches are doing everything they can. Most of them are supposed to be doing it within the rules of what they can and can't do, but it just gets very competitive down the stretch, and even more so, maybe even more so now with NIL being such a factor in recruiting. It's just the reality of how recruiting works today. So a lot of things can change, a lot of things going on. Once again, Miami's still waiting on 2 of their guys that have verbally committed, McLean and Mauigoa, 2 different situations. We've got some ceremonies in the afternoon. Antonio Tripp is planning on, once again, these guys have already signed, but they're planning on doing their ceremonies at their schools later on. Antonio Tripp at 12 o'clock, Marcellus Pulliam, Robert Stafford at 2:30 over there at Eau Gallie High School. Let's talk about him. I had a chance to go see him practice, drove up there to Melbourne, Florida. Shout out to everybody in that part of the state. Had a good time. Went to practice, got the drone up, got a look at the school and put some stuff there and tried to put together a good video. But yeah, Robert Stafford's a really intriguing guy that Gabby and I had a chance to talk about, just with him signing, and I haven't played that yet. Miami lands an intriguing, athletic 4-star cornerback, Robert Stafford, out of Eau Gallie High School in Melbourne, Florida. Had a chance to watch him at practice earlier this year, but there's a lot to like about him. He makes plays, and he's certainly athletic. You can see it anytime you watch him play.
Yeah, you turn on the tape, you watch Robert Stafford making plays in all 3 phases, whether that be at cornerback, whether that be at receiver, and definitely in the return game. He's a high-level athlete. I mean, I think, again, just a high upside kid. Was really happy that Miami was able to make a move over the summer. It felt like at one point Oregon had an in. It seemed like Arkansas was definitely making a move. I think Georgia was in there for some time, Kentucky as well. I mean, this is a kid that definitely could have left, the Sunshine State, gone off somewhere else. And we're hearing about him in 2-3 years as, a premier player in that conference. I mean, I think he has that level of talent. So Miami was able to get him down for an official visit over the summer, and that's really what all it took to kind of lock him in. And I love me some Robert Stafford, man. I think that once he kind of he makes the full transition to cornerback, locks in, and just continues to kind of refine all of those things. I think he's someone that's gonna. I view him as a potential starter for Miami down the line.
And one of the things that you're speaking about in terms of making that transition completely is just the way it looks like he takes to coaching. When I was at practice, the coaches were on him and teaching him different technique things all the time. And he just definitely took it in. And I think that's going to be big at the next level, obviously. Take to coaching, continue to work on your craft, because there's a lot to like about Stafford. Again, athletically, it's there. He also makes plays at cornerback too. It's not just one of these guys that's just this raw prospect. He's a guy that makes plays. He gets interceptions. I like his ball skills. A guy, as you mentioned, played wide receiver, and he still does, but he tends to take that one-on-one type matchups over to the defensive side of the ball, and he's trying to catch the ball as a cornerback. And you'd like to see that guy's trying to come down with the ball there and make plays. And when he gets the ball in his hands, he has a chance to score, as we saw during his senior year.
Yeah, and I think you just look at the verified athleticism. I mean, posted a blazing 40-yard dash time at an invite-only camp in the spring of 2022. Played basketball, runs track, does all the things, and you hear so much about how important those multi-sport background things translate and how much that helps at the next level. It seems like Robert Stafford really, again, you're kind of going down the list of what you're looking for, and Robert Stafford just kind of really just he has all the things you're looking for in terms of being a high-level cornerback. So he's going to be in good hands in Coral Gables, and I know Mario Cristobal and company are excited to get a hold of him.
Miami lands 6'6", 330-pound offensive lineman Tommy Kinsler out of Ocala Trinity Catholic High School. He's one of these guys, when you see him in person, he certainly stands out.
Oh my gosh, yes. I mean, he, in terms of physically, Tommy Kinsler might be the biggest of the bunch. And there was a photo that surfaced of him on his official visit back during the summer months next to Samson Oak Lola, the 5-star offensive lineman. And Tommy Kinsler is pretty significantly bigger than Oak Lola. And I think that's where the promise is. That's where the upside is. Maybe not someone that's going to be a day one contributor, but man, I think that they feel really good about what he could be a couple years down the line. Again, what he has, you can't teach. He has that natural size. And I think what excites some people is that what he is kind of going, when he's kind of maybe into it and maybe just kind of has that fire lit, he puts together some really, really impressive stuff. I think that there's times also where, maybe if he's just kind of, going through the motions, he can kind of slip up in those things. But I think when Miami gets him right, gets him in that mind frame where you're going 100% every single snap, every single rep, I think you have to be super encouraged about what Tommy Kinsler could potentially bring to the interior offensive line. I mean, again, that size, man, is really, really big. We saw Nez Cooper contribute as a true freshman. Definitely a little bit bigger than Tommy Kinsler in terms of weight and all that stuff. But man, Tommy Kinsler doesn't necessarily seem to have a lot of bad weight on him. He doesn't seem overweight or anything like that. He's just a big body who could potentially be a grinder for Miami in the run game.
Yeah, Gabby, that's what stands out to me. And that's what I wanted to mention is, with that size, it looks good, in that sense where, and it doesn't always happen like that. Sometimes with size, especially for a young player. Another thing for a young player, a young offensive lineman, is it's not uncommon to hear some of the things that you're mentioning in terms of an every play, every rep thing. Sometimes these guys are just used to being the biggest guy out on the field. And it is a transition to take that to an every play type mentality, type of mode when you get to the next level. And again, as you mentioned, plenty to work with here in Tommy Kinsler with his size. He does have the ability. He's someone that I'm very intrigued by because, again, I think he's got a chance to be a good one at Miami, continues to work, continues to develop. He doesn't have to have that expectation of playing immediately, and I like when players don't have to have that. but that doesn't mean he can't be a contributor at some level, whether it's special teams out there on the field or whatever it might be. Or as we saw this past season for Miami, you need depth on the offensive line. You never know when guys will go down. The way it looks with Miami's roster, there's a lot of offensive linemen slated to come back as it stands, but not a lot of proven guys, particularly in that second unit. So we'll see how Tommy kind of fits into this mix at Miami with this roster as it currently stands.
Yeah, I think a guy that, again, Coach Mirabal, Coach Cristobal should be excited to get their hands on. These guys are offensive line, background dudes like through and through. And I think that these are the types of guys that they're kind of used to bringing in. You look at that Oregon offensive line here in 2022, those are all Cristobal and Mirabal guys. And those guys were a semifinalist for the Joe Moore Award. You look through the star rankings and I think every single one of them, it was a 3-star guy. I think maybe one was a 4-star junior college guy. But this is their bread and butter. I mean, they trust their evaluations on the offensive line. They get these types of dudes. They coach them up, and these guys are eventually high-level, contributors and extremely, extremely efficient in terms of being, run blockers, pass blockers, all those things. So again, I'm encouraged about the size, the clay that Tommy Kinsler has to work with, and I think he can be a factor moving forward.
So that gets through all of the videos that we've talked about from the signees. People jumping on the chat, just kind of an update. If you're just jumping on again, Miami has signed 22 players today. Number 3 team in the country recruiting class, and they're waiting on 2 more. And Maui Goa and also McLean. Again, McLean's not going to sign today. Maui Goa is still expected to. And just want to look at the chat a little bit. Yeah, Biz Money, great comment about Mario waiting until bowls are over in terms of some other players. I think that's going to go on. Great seeing so many comments in here, just kind of scrolling through. Yeah, Sean David, you're correct. Hussey and Edwin Joseph. It looks like Florida State for those 2 guys. Yeah, John made the comment in terms of time with Maui Go. We talked about that. If he's back home, which we are led to believe, American Samoa's 6 hours behind Eastern time, so only 5:30 there. 7 a.m. Would be the time to look for, but also, obviously it could be a little later than that. The live show, I'm going to wrap this thing up in a little bit. Maybe we'll give it some time. I'd hate to wrap this up without kind of breaking down Maui Goa. Certainly an awesome prospect that we've had a chance to watch. I've got some content on him, but I just want to wait and see and maybe answer a few questions here. You guys can definitely drop in the comments. Maybe we'll revisit a little bit of some Damari Brown highlights, some clips there. Hopefully you guys liked the insight from Chris Singletary there on Emory Williams. Again, the quarterback position, there's so much that goes into the quarterback position. Emory had a good showing there over the summer. So we'll see how his development goes. And I, and talking to some of the other recruits in the class, I know they're excited about Emory and his development. So Miami's getting a mix of guys, some speed guys, and certainly we're going to have these breakdowns. You can see, you can watch this back certainly, but also I'll break down, the interviews with Gabby and our discussions. I'll break that down on the channel, have that there for you. So you can see that. Somebody asked who is next. I think the one to watch for is over there at Chaminade. Madonna, Edwin Joseph, supposed to announce 11:45. Those things usually take a while to get started, but that's kind of the name to watch. But again, he's not expected, but we will see. I talked about him earlier, just being a rising prospect out of Chaminade there, can play receiver. It's kind of where he got noticed at first, some big plays there a couple years ago. And then all of a sudden, kind of develops into this cornerback prospect, kind of had this nice journey as a prospect going from Division I, a lot of receivers in the area, then it become Power 5. Looks like he could be a Power 5 conference prospect, and then moving on to now Miami and Florida State are among the schools interested in him. I want to check back over the InsideTheU message boards, kind of see what's going on there. If there's anything to discuss, kind of talk about there as well. As I mentioned, there's a VIP article on Cormani McLean about what's going on with him. And once again, transfers, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, I'm going to kind of do this a little bit. I do want to wrap this up. We got some more stuff to get to. It's already been a show over 2 hours. If anybody wants to watch this back, I definitely want to do that. Let's get some questions in if there's anything I can drop. But once again, we went through all the signees, discussed all of them, had some discussions that I'm going to post later on. Like I said, with Francis and then Cormani, we'll see how those things pan out. I want to get to that. Once again, press conference with Mario Cristobal is at 4 p.m. I'm looking forward to seeing what he has to say. And what's good about the coaches, it's the first time that they're able to publicly discuss the recruits. So this is great to get their perspective. And sometimes maybe you learn about some more position stuff. If there's some things that they see these guys as that we haven't reported on previously. I've discussed some of these guys, but sometimes they discuss that, or maybe even some guys that they're considering in the return game. A little more details about these guys. Also some recruit background, some stories about them. We usually get that, and we will see if Cristobal expands on some of that. But definitely just kind of hearing him discuss that. I'll have all the updates on the channel, but also certainly plenty of updates on the website as well. But yeah, I just want a big thank you. I've said this before throughout, but just a big thank you to everybody for jumping on here, hitting the like button. This is the first time I've done this live stream on signing day. It's hectic. There's a lot going on, kind of mixing in some interviews, doing some behind the scenes work at the same time, getting this ticker updated and having the team rankings, just kind of showing you guys here. Once again, we've got to get to 20,000 subscribers. We're definitely working towards that on the channel. It's been crazy, the support recently. So it's great. There's so much excitement for this program, kind of wrapping this up. It's great that there's so much excitement and positivity surrounding a program that really struggled last year. 5-7, matched their worst record since 1977. With a new head coach, you're wondering if it's going to trend in the right direction. Will they be able to get the recruits to maybe help turn things, just, kind of inflect some energy and get some talent and something new into the program. And they are doing that. There's reasons to, as we've spoken about all of these recruits, there's reasons to like them, whether they're highly regarded or not. There's flashes of things. So things are looking brighter. How quickly things get turned around, we'll wait and see. I'm really looking forward to seeing how things pan out moving forward the rest of the offseason. Once again, transfer portal is going to be big. Stay tuned for that. More recruits can still sign, not just this week as the early signing period wraps up on Friday, but the regular, again, the traditional signing period is that first week of February is when that begins. So definitely guys can sign later. Miami, the coaching staff will definitely be looking to see who doesn't sign in these 3 days, that maybe they'll get some visitors in. They're tight on official visits right now. Teams are limited on how many official visits they can offer to recruits during the recruiting cycle. So maybe they won't have as many there. But I think, too, the big thing after today, after Friday, is the transfer portal. So definitely stay tuned with that as Miami either gets guys on official visits or unofficial visits there. So thank you, everybody. We're going to wrap this up. Watch this thing back. I'll chapter it off. I'll break it off into some video in case you don't want to watch the stream. But if you want to watch maybe a certain position unit or other segments that I want to make sure I include. So I want to thank everybody for watching the video, being here on the stream. It's been fun. Great seeing so much support. And have a good rest of the day.